Chapter 1593. Shui Lin held the divine technique, his palms trembling with excitement. He was both happy and anxious. But Brother Shui Yu, I didn't win. Why did you give it to me? So you smiled lightly. I told you qualifications and strength are important, but the heart is equally important. Take it and train. Thank you. Thank you, Brother Suyu. Shui Lin had been bullied by his family for years. Now that Suyu had helped him, he cried with gratitude. Brother Suyu, I, Shui Lin, will never be able to repay your kindness. Suyu said, Don't thank me. Thank yourself if you want to. He glanced at the rest of the Shui family members. They were all jealous and envious. When they met Suyu's eyes, there was desire, regret, and shame. They wanted to ask for the divine techniques of the foreign races, but they knew that Shui Yu would never reward them. However, to their surprise, Suyu waved his sleeves. There were dozens of different divine techniques of the foreign races on the ground. Although these divine techniques were not as powerful as the Song of the Blue Heart Sword and the Snow Leopard Travel, they were still powerful. Choose one that suits you. Train seriously and don't let down the expectations of your family, Suyu said. His words were full of expectations for them. While the juniors were pleasantly surprised, they were also deeply moved. In the past, they had all admired Shui Lei. They had helped Shui Lei to mock, and attack Shui Yu. Now, not only did he not tease them, but he was also standing on the side of the family. Thank you, Brother Suyu. Someone bowed sincerely and chose a secret book. The rest of the people also chose the divine techniques that suited them. They had mixed feelings about Suyu. After the tour, Suyu sent Li Yu and the others back to the living room. The discussion between the elders of the two clans had just ended. Li Qingquan walked out of the living room with a gloomy face. When he saw the juniors of the Shui family, he stopped to pay attention. When he saw Suyu, his eyes stopped for a moment. There was surprise and fear in his eyes. He must have confirmed that the rumor was true. That senior expert did know Shui Yu. This news was extremely unfavorable to the Shui family. Let's go. Li Qingquan looked at Suyu and led the juniors away. When he came to the outside world, Li Qingquan's eyes shone with a fierce light. This Shui Yu. I really didn't expect that the most threatening person among the younger generation of the Shui clan wasn't Shui Lei, but the silent second brother. An elder with a high position said in a low voice, Patriarch, do you want me to send someone? He made a gesture across his neck. No, Li Yu said solemnly. Li Qingquan looked at her. Do you have any brilliant ideas? Li Yu pointed at Li Jun. The injuries on his body were obvious at a glance. Li Qingquan had been preoccupied with other matters and did not notice it. Only now did he notice the sharp wound on Li Jun's arm. His eyes were sharp as he said, Injured by an emperor-level divine weapon. When? Li Yu said, Just now, the juniors of our two families sparred. Li said, Chen and Li Qingquan didn't care about the outcome of a duel. But Li Yu shook her head. See, this is the problem I want to talk about. Oh, just say it. Li Qingquan was puzzled. Li Yu said, Father, why don't you guess who hurt Li Jun? Li Qingquan frowned. He didn't expect his daughter to ask about the person who hurt Li Jun suddenly. An unbelievable thought flashed within Li Qingquan's mind, and he said, Could it be that the person who injured him was Shui Yu? Li Yu didn't answer. Li Jun lowered his head in shame. Li Qingquan stopped in his tracks. The elders also stopped and stared at Li Jun in shock. Li Qingquan said in a low voice, Li Jun, is it really him? Li Jun knelt on the ground and cowed out. I'm useless. I lost to him. Please punish me, Father. How could this be? They all had the same question in their minds. They knew Shui Yu's strength very well. His previous duels were all at the level of the mortal fairy realm. Logically speaking, he wouldn't be able to achieve much and wouldn't be threatened. Li Qingquan asked, Was it a sneak attack, or were you careless? Li Jun was so ashamed that he wanted to find a hole to hide in. Li Yu said, It was a head-on duel. A head-on duel? How is that possible? Li Qingquan was surprised. Li Yu shook her head. I wouldn't believe it if I didn't see it with my own eyes. But you have to believe that such a genius exists in this world. His mysterious swordsmanship doesn't look like a newbie at all. Instead, He looks like a strong man who has been studying swordsmanship for many years. Li Jun lost to him completely. Swordsmanship? Surprise flashed in Li Chinquin's eyes. His face was full of uncertainty. The elder who proposed to assassinate Su Yu said anxiously, "Master, we can't hesitate anymore. This man is not only acquainted with that senior, but he's also a super genius who can defeat enemies of a higher level. If we don't kill him, the Li family will be in danger." Li Chinquin looked at Li Yu and shook his head. "That's why Yu'er stopped you from assassinating him. He is a key figure who maintains the relationship between the Shui family and that senior. He is a reclusive heaven ruler with unparalleled talent. Do you think the Shui family will leave him unprotected like before? I'm afraid he has already set up a trap around him, waiting for our assassins to come to him." Once the assassination failed, the relationship between the two clans would be ignited, and a war would break out. There was a limit to the Li family's strength compared to the Shui family. If they really fought, both sides would suffer, and the other small forces of the Twin Star Island would benefit. It looks like we can only wait for the cave of 10,000 dragons to strike. Li Chinquin was full of murderous intent. The discussion just now has basically confirmed that Shui Yu will be on the Shui family's list of participants in the cave of 10,000 dragons. If we want to strike, that's the only time. Li Jun frowned secretly. As a woman, she had an ambition that many men couldn't compare to. Compared to scheming, she wanted to defeat Shui Yu with her own strength. But the elders made the decision, and it wasn't her place to interrupt. The two clans finished their discussion. A haggard but powerful cave abode world, venerable figure stepped on the constellation sea and landed on the Twin Star Island. He leaped to the Shui family and landed directly in the Shui residence. When the servants of the Li residence saw him, they didn't stop him. Instead, they were very respectful and didn't even pant. Their expressions were extremely respectful. "Young master," Cheng Wei, who had just sent Li Chinquin back, exclaimed in surprise. He looked at the young master in surprise. The other's clothes were tattered, and there were many wounds all over his body. He wasn't as high-spirited as he used to be. What surprised Cheng Wei the most was that Shui Lei had stolen their ice fire ship. Logically speaking, the ice fire ship was 10 times faster than an ordinary ship. He should have returned to the family earlier than them. Why did he return half a month later? And he even looked like he was in a mess? Shui Lei stared at him coldly and snorted. "Where's father?" "He's in the guest hall. He just sent off the guests and is still discussing important matters with the elders. Why don't you wait for a while and let me go report first?" Cheng Wei said. Shui Lei's eyebrows relaxed. He quickened his steps and went straight to the main hall. No need. He had successfully completed the mission to collect the important items from the Star Pavilion. He could ask for credit from his father and the elders. This would be very beneficial to establishing his image in the family. He pushed open the door to the guest hall. Seeing that all the core members of the family were there, he couldn't help but be secretly happy. This was the situation he wanted. Of course, it would be better if Shui Yu wasn't there. "Father," Shui Lei was overjoyed. However, before he could finish, Shui Yuntian interrupted him with dissatisfaction. "Lei, why don't you understand the rules? The secret agents of the family are not allowed to disturb them. You broke the rules by barging in like this." Shui Lei was startled. It wasn't the first time he had done something like this, but it was the first time he was criticized by his father. He was a little surprised. He looked at the other elders. They used to be tolerant of him, but now they were all showing dissatisfaction. What was going on? Shui Lei felt strange. "Forget it. Don't do it again." Shui Yuntian waved his hand. "Stand aside. We'll talk about it later." Shui Lei couldn't figure out. He stood aside and watched quietly. He heard the clan master and the elders talking excitedly as they listened to Su Yu's explanation of the duel. He even mentioned Shui Xian and Shui Lin, as well as the divine techniques of the foreign races. In the end, the clan master and the elders were all smiling. Some even slapped the table and laughed heartily. The entire meeting room was filled with a sense of exhilaration and elation. Shui Lei was keenly aware that Shui Yu seemed to be the center of attention in the secret discussion of the elders. The clan master and the elders were all surrounding Su Yu. When they finished, Shui Lei took a deep breath. His face was full of joy. He stepped forward and said with a smile, "Father, elders, Shuele didn't disappoint you. I completed the mission given by the family with great difficulty and brought back 100 starlight herbs from the Star Pavilion, fulfilling the Shue family's tribute this year." Hearing that, the clan master and the elders only smiled symbolically. Even the clan leader only gave a few words of praise in a neutral tone. It was completely different from the various awards and praises he had received in the past. Shuele suddenly felt a huge disparity. He couldn't figure out the reason, no matter how he thought about it. After thinking for a while, he didn't want to delve into it. His eyes flashed, and he said what he really wanted. "Father, there's still half a month before the ancestral worship. I'm willing to represent the family, to worship the ancestors." He had just completed a difficult mission for the family. Striking while the iron was hot, he asked to be the representative for the ancestral worship. In fact, since he came of age, he had always been the representative of the Shue family without exception. He was just giving the family an excuse to confer him the title of representative. Among the family, apart from Shuele, who else was qualified to represent the Shue family? On the contrary, if he refused to represent the Shue family, the clan master and the elders would have to worry about who to choose. With a hint of pride in his heart, Shuele waited for the clan master to announce, "Lei, you've been the one to do the ancestral worship all these years. It's been hard on you. I feel bad about it. I've discussed with the elders. Why don't we let your younger brother Shuele be the representative this year?" Shuele's conditions were reversed. He smiled and said obediently, "I'm willing." Chapter 1594. Shui Yuntian nodded. "Yes, let Shui Yu represent us this year." Shuele couldn't believe his ears. He had never thought that one day the right to worship the ancestors that belonged to him would be taken away by Shui Yu. He stood up and asked why. Shui Yuntian said, "We can't give you the opportunity to cultivate the divine path every year, can we? Shui Yu is at the 4th stage of the mortal fairy, and this is the most critical moment for him to cultivate the divine path. As his brother, you should understand." Shuele stared at Suyu. Recalling the conversation in the house, he felt that Suyu was trying to please them, or Suyu was bad-mouthing him in front of them. "Father," Shuele's eyes were resolute. "Only the best of the clan can represent us. Otherwise, how can the ancestors rest in peace? Father, please be careful." Shui Yuntian frowned and said, "Your brother Shueyu is not bad. I have made up my mind, and there is no room for negotiation." He actually wanted to say that he was stronger than Shuele, but he couldn't bring himself to say such hurtful words. Shui Yuntian stared at Su Yu with hatred, then turned his hopeful eyes to the elder of the Lone Mountain. He said, "Elder of the Lone Mountain, for the sake of my contributions to the family, do you really have the heart to let me miss this opportunity? I am not far from becoming a level 2 Cavern World Master." Unexpectedly, the elder of the Lone Mountain, who had always been partial to him, looked at Su Yu with a complicated expression and said in a rare impartial manner, "Shuele, it's not that I don't want to help you, but your father is right. Shui Yu is at the critical moment of becoming a Cavern World Master." Shuele was stunned. He could hardly believe that the elder of the Lone Mountain in front of him was the unreasonable great ancestor who was partial to him. What had happened? Why did the elder of the Lone Mountain not speak for him? Endless resentment burst forth in his heart as he stared at Su Yu. "Did you badmouth me? You despicable man. I just robbed your Icefire ship. Do you have to be so insidious?" Shui Yuntian frowned. "Lei, what did you just say? You robbed Yu's Icefire ship?" The rest of the elders also looked at Su Yu in surprise. Shui Yuntian asked, Why didn't you mention this?" Su Yu revealed a faint smile and said magnanimously, "It's just a trivial matter. Since I've already returned safely, there's no need to mention it. If the Li family were to find out about it, they would only ridicule us, the Shui family's brothers, for not being united." These words warmed the hearts of the elders. On the other hand, Shuele, if there was no comparison, there was no difference in strength. In the past, they had thought that Shuele's shortcomings could be tolerated, but now, in comparison, his character and Shui Yu's were like heaven and earth. Even Shuele bullied him like that, But Shueyu put the clan first and endured silently. If Shuelei hadn't taken the initiative to bring it up, they wouldn't have known about it at all. Seeing that the crowd was once again bewitched by Su Yu, Shuelei laughed angrily. I really cannot tell. Not only are you good at backstabbing people, you are also good at coaxing people. You want to step on me to achieve your goals? Ha ha, brilliant, truly brilliant. Pa. Just as he finished speaking, a loud slap landed on Shuelei's face, causing him to see stars. His eyes fixed on Shui Yuntian, who was standing in front of him with an angry expression, his eyes filled with disappointment. If I told you that your brother has never mentioned a word about you to us since he came back, let alone bad-mouthing you, how would you feel? Shuelei covered his face, the hatred in his eyes increasing. He said in a low voice, I don't believe it. If he hadn't slandered me behind my back, why would you treat me like this? Treat you like what? Shui Yuntian said. You want to say that we treat you better than we used to, but treat your brother better than we used to, right? Do you want to know the reason? It's simple, because your brother has made contributions to the family that several generations have not been able to do. Is that enough? Shuelei was shocked, but more than that, he did not believe it. He did not believe that Shueyu, who had been stepped on by him since he was born, could have made any great contributions. He stubbornly believed that they had been coaxed by Su Yu. Fine, I believe you. Shuelei clenched his teeth. But I still don't think it's right to give him the ancestral offering. Giving the divine path to a good-for-nothing like him is a complete waste. It's better to give it to me, the genius of the family. He turned and walked out furiously, not even looking back. You will regret giving him this once-a-year opportunity. Shui Yuntian glared at him, clenching his fists. He had the urge to rush forward and teach him a lesson. But Shuelei was his son after all. He sighed helplessly, rubbing his brows tiredly as he sat back down weakly. At that moment, Su Yu's voice came to his ears. Father, don't worry. Big brother has always been like this, and he did not mean to contradict you. I believe he will understand father's painstaking efforts in the future. Shui Yuntian was gratified, his mood improving. He looked at Su Yu with even more fondness. You have my heart. The ancestral offering ceremony on the Twin Star Island was a grand occasion. Everyone was overjoyed, except for Shuelei, who was drinking alone. Half a month after he returned to the family, all the young girls in the family who used to surround him and call him Brother Shuelei had disappeared without a trace. The youths who idolized him and hoped to receive his guidance also avoided him, as if they were afraid of being associated with him. It was as if the young king of the family had been kicked off his throne overnight, and no one was interested in him. As he was feeling puzzled, a group of frolicking people suddenly came into view. Looking over, he could not help but be enraged. He saw Shueyu, surrounded by the young members of the family, walking toward the ancestral offering stage like a king. Brother Shueyu, the crown on your head is so handsome. Let me wipe it for you, a charming young girl said with a smile. Shuemei, you slut. Don't take advantage of Brother Shueyu, okay? Shuemei giggled. Shueruxu, you've been hugging Brother Shueyu's arm for so long. Can't I take advantage of you? Shuemei and Shueruxu were the beautiful young girls in the family who surrounded Shuelei all year round. Now, they had abandoned him and thrown themselves into Shueyu's arms. The group of youths who were escorting him and parting the crowd outside were the young men of the family who were trying to please him and ask for his guidance. Seeing this, Shuelei was furious. You've gone too far. Shuelei slammed the table, shattering the stone table in the pavilion. The violent sound frightened the young girls, and they squeezed into Su Yu's arms even more, as if Shuelei was too fierce and they were afraid of him. Shueyu, come over here. Shuelei pointed at Su Yu angrily. Su Yu was helpless. He did not want to be so ostentatious, but ever since the sparring session, he had shown his hidden abilities and won the respect of the family. His act of forgetting the past and bestowing the foreign clan's divine techniques had won them a great deal of affection. On top of that, Su Yu was gentle and approachable, unlike Shuelei, who was difficult to please. Naturally, the younger generation of the family, be it men or women, were very close to him. Unless Su Yu was in isolation, he would be surrounded by a group of young girls carrying sticks to clear the way, just like what was happening in front of him. Unknowingly, this infuriated Shuele again. He stood still and said, "Big brother, what's the matter?" Shuele was furious, but when he called out to Shueyu, he found that he had nothing to say. What could he say? Say that Suyu had snatched away his followers? Wasn't that embarrassing enough? He could not bring himself to say that. Suddenly, Shuele remembered something and sneered. "Have you forgotten that you still owe me 30,000 Taichu dollars? Why, as a creditor, can't I collect my debt?" Suyu had inquired about the reason for this debt in the past 2 weeks. Shueyu could not get help from the family, so he wanted to buy some resources outside and borrowed 1,000 Taichu dollars from Shuele. As a result, the interest compounded until it reached a huge sum of 30,000 Taichu dollars. Although Shueyu tried his best to repay more than 4,000 Taichu dollars, how could it keep up with the interest compounding? Suyu was quite critical of Shuele for scheming against his own brother. However, it was only right to repay a debt, whether it was compounding or not. It was still a debt. I also know that you are a poor wretch with no money to use. How about this? You kneel down and kowtow to me today, and I will deduct 10 Taichu dollars. How about that? Shuele suggested. Such public humiliation, especially when Suyu is going to participate in the ancestral worship ceremony later. Why aren't you speaking? Think about it. 10 Taichu dollars for a kowtow. This is a benefit that you can't even dream of. What are you hesitating for? Shuele mocked. The many juniors around Suyu were also angry. Shuele was the one who had gone too far. I will return the 1,000 Taichu dollars for brother Shueyu. Shuexian walked out coldly and slapped a Cosmos sack on the stone bench. Shuele's eyes narrowed, and he sneered. Shuexian, I haven't seen you for a few months, and you have grown up. How dare you go against me? I will also return the debt for brother Shueyu. Shuelin walked forward with trepidation and put down 500 Taichu dollars. How dare you? Shuele was angry, and Shuexian was one thing, but Shuelin was like a mouse meeting a cat whenever he saw him, and now he dared to openly oppose him. I will also help brother Suyu pay the debt. This is all I have. Shueme giggled and took out a small bag with a sweet smile, throwing it on the stone bench. There were more than 300 Taichu dollars in it. Then I can't fall behind, right? Shue Ruxu said with a smile, throwing a Taichu dollar on the ground. Me too. Hee. I can't take brother Suyu's things for free. A group of youths also helped Suyu out. In the past, Shuele was the most powerful, and they dared not offend him. But now that Suyu is the most valued by the clan, why would they still be afraid of Shuele? Before long, in the pavilion, on the stone bench, and on the ground were piles of money bags. There were about $10,000 to $20,000, which was a huge sum of money even for a family. Shuele glared at them coldly. How dare you? What answered him was a pair of fearless eyes. The more they behaved like that, the angrier Shuele became. Good. All of you are hard now, aren't you? You want to pay the debt for him, right? Fine, I still need 15,000 Taichu dollars. All of you kneel and kowtow to me. If I'm satisfied with your kowtow, I will write off the debt. Otherwise, get out of my sight. Everyone was in a difficult position. They could only gather about 10,000 Taichu dollars, even if they gave it their all. Keep it. I appreciate your kindness. Suyu waved his sleeves, and all the money bags fell into their hands. Shuele grinned. What? Have you thought it through and want to kneel? Pow! Chapter 1595. 30,000 Taichu coins, and we'll write off all our debts, Suyu said calmly. You? Shuele sneered. He grabbed the bag and opened it. He was stunned. It was indeed 30,000 Taichu coins. Where did you get so much money from? He could not believe it. Even if someone in the family wanted to secretly give him such a huge amount of money, they would have to consider the tolerance of the family. This was definitely not a small amount. You don't have to ask about my origin. Suyu turned to the crowd and said, I still have some money here. Let's divide it up and go buy something you like. When he finished speaking, he waved his hand, and a large amount of golden Taichu coins fell into everyone's arms. Wow, 2,000 Taichu coins. Oh my God, am I dreaming? Brother Suyu, did you rob the Li family's treasury? How do you have so many coins? Oh my God, Everyone has been given 2,000 Taichu coins. That's a total of 100,000, right? Even the senior martial artist would not be able to take out that much easily. Brother Su Yu, I love you so much. I'm going to betray the Shui family and change my name to marry you. Shui Lei was stunned. 100,000 Taichu coins? Even he did not have that much. Under his astonished gaze, Su Yu, who was surrounded by many beautiful young girls and young men, walked towards the ancestral shrine, where the ancestral worship ceremony was held. After a long time, Shui Lei came back to his senses. He clenched his fists and growled, Shui Yu, I'm going to make you lose all your face. Just you wait. The long and complicated ancestral worship ceremony lasted from early morning until the moon was bright. Although it was Su Yu's first time participating in the ceremony, he was calm and composed. The Shui family was very satisfied with his performance. After the ancestral worship ceremony, the door of the palace tomb was opened under the witness of the two families. Su Yu and Li Yu, the representatives of the two families, came to the palace tomb at the same time. Shui Yuntian said, when you water, remember to go to the center of the lake as much as possible. The closer you are to the center, the better the effect of the water. But don't go too deep once you find the resistance is too strong. Nodding his head, Su Yu took her advice to heart and entered with Li Yu. There was a long tunnel from the entrance to the center of the lake. Li Yu was familiar with the route and said as she walked, Shui Yu, be careful next time. Su Yu's eyes flickered. What do you mean? Li Yu remained silent and did not respond. Was she warning him that someone was plotting against him? But who could it be? Was it someone from the Li family or Tuobaluan from the Feather God clan? With questions in mind, Su Yu quickly arrived at the underground lake. According to the legend, the location of the lake was the spine of the giant skeleton. Every year, a pool of spirit liquid would be produced for the use of the younger generation of the Shui and Li families. The lake was emerald green in color, as beautiful as jade. Li Yu stood by the lake and took off her outer clothes as if no one was around. She was only wearing a thin layer of silk underwear and immediately walked into the lake. She didn't even turn her head as she said, Hurry up. After 6 hours, the spiritual liquid will return to the depths of the spinal cord. How much we can absorb will depend on our own abilities. Is that so? Su Yu nodded and entered the water. All of a sudden, Su Yu felt his soul stirring. The 8,000 divine paths that were in deep slumber showed signs of trembling, as if they were about to awaken. This spiritual liquid does have a miraculous effect on the divine paths. Su Yu was secretly surprised and continued to take 5 steps towards the center of the lake. Just as Shui Yuntian said, the closer to the center of the lake, the stronger the effect of the spiritual liquid on the divine paths. However, the resistance also increased. After 10 steps, Su Yu felt extremely pressured. Shui Lei's limit is 13 steps, and mine is 20 steps. Li Yu turned her head and looked at him. Deep in her eyes, there was a hint of expectation. 13 steps? Su Yu gritted his teeth. He could do it too. The problem was the effect of the spiritual liquid was not very different from 3 steps. The divine paths that he wanted to comprehend were not 1 or 2, but thousands of them. This effect was not enough to fill the gap between his teeth. But how to reduce the resistance? Su Yu observed the spiritual liquid for a moment. After thinking for a while, he began to operate the path of rain that had not been carefully refined. As soon as the path of rain was operated, Su Yu felt the resistance around him weaken a lot, allowing him to take 2 steps forward. It is indeed related to the divine path. The stronger the divine path, the closer to the center of the lake, and vice versa. Understanding this, Su Yu's heart was as clear as a mirror. He released the 2nd level of the divine path, and the resistance weakened again. Su Yu took 3 steps in a row. This repeated 3 times. By the 4th divine path, Su Yu had taken 20 steps, reaching the same level as Li Yu. Looking sideways, Li Yu had entered a meditative state and was completely unaware of the outside world. Her beautiful brows were tightly furrowed, and she was immersed in the torturous tempering of the divine path. Su Yu remained calm and continued to release the divine path. By the time he released 100 divine paths, he had taken 300 steps and reached the center of the lake. The spiritual liquid here had the best tempering effect on the divine path, almost comparable to the acceleration of time. Time waits for no one. Suyu immediately prepared to temper the divine path. In half a day, if nothing unexpected happened, he should be able to condense 100 divine paths. However, at that moment, Suyu's feet were empty. The center of the lake was hollow. He stepped on it and fell into the hole at the bottom of the lake. He instinctively swam up, but suddenly felt the effect of the spiritual liquid below was more powerful. Delighted, he plunged headlong into it. Half an hour later, in the deepest part of the spinal cord, in front of a huge green bead. This should be the essence of this giant beast when it was alive, stored in the spinal cord. Suyu sensed the powerful spiritual liquid emitted from the bead and held it. Suddenly, Suyu trembled and felt numb all over. The 8,000 divine paths in his body were constantly trembling, as if they were about to awaken immediately. The remaining 2,000 divine paths, which had not been comprehended, were also rapidly solidifying. There were still 2.5 hours left before the end of the time limit, and Suyu immediately began to concentrate on the comprehension. Time flew, and 2 hours passed in a flash. In the center of the lake, a phantom of the divine Dharma Laksana flickered from time to time, one after another. It was extremely fascinating. It was not until half an hour later that it gradually weakened. The green bead in front of Suyu was dim and lightless. The essence of the giant beast had been consumed by Suyu overnight. However, the results were extremely amazing. A total of 1,000 divine paths had been comprehended. Such an effect was comparable to 2 months of painstaking cultivation in the state of 500 times the time family. He was only 1,000 divine paths away from the threshold of 10,000 divine paths. Becoming a god was not far away. After the cultivation, Suyu sneaked out of the spinal cord and walked to the shore. When he was only 14 steps away from the shore, Liu slowly woke up from her meditation and saw Suyu's figure. She was surprised and said, "You are really not simple. You're only a level 4 mortal fairy, but in terms of divine paths, you are 1 step stronger than your brother Shuele." Suyu said, "Not as strong as you." She had taken 20 steps, while Suyu had only taken 14. Liu did not deny this and said, "What you lack is time. When you reach my level, I believe it will not be too difficult to reach 20 steps." Stretching out her arms gracefully, Liu said, "Let's go back. The people of the 2 clans can't wait." The moment she got up, Suyu's powerful soul immediately sensed the transformation of Liu's divine path. If he was not wrong, she was only 1 step away from the level of level 2 Cavern World Master. Back outside the Tomb Palace, Shui Yuntian and Li Qinquan came up to check their changes. Shui Yuntian looked at Suyu and said, "How do you feel?" Suyu smiled and said, "Not bad. The divine path has become more solid." "Haha, it's good that it is effective. I will look for some useful treasures of heaven and earth. I believe you can break through the level of Cavern World Master within a year." Shui Yuntian was full of confidence and high spirits. However, Li Qinquan's laughter drowned him out. I am so proud of you," Li Qinquan said excitedly. Shui Yuntian looked at Liu and frowned slightly. As a strong man of level 1, he could acutely sense the changes in Liu. The Li family is so lucky to get such a treasure, Shui Yuntian said with jealousy. Liu stood out in the Twin Stars Island and was envied by others. Hiding his surprise, Shui Yuntian touched Suyu's head and said, "My Yu is also good. Let's go back and hold a banquet to congratulate you on your great progress in the divine path." "Wait." Li Qinquan blocked Shui Yuntian's way and said in high spirits, "Brother Shui, according to the usual practice of previous years, we should test the benefits that the representatives of both sides have obtained during the watering. This year is no exception, right?" Shui Yuntian stared at him. Did he not understand? Liu was about to break through to level 2 Cavern World Master. How could Shui Yu compare to the benefits that she had obtained? Li Qinquan's insistence was to embarrass the Shui family. Sure enough, All the elders of the Shui family had strange looks on their faces, and they found it difficult to speak. However, the ancestors of both families had set the rules in the past. If the Li family insisted, they could only test it. It's still the same. Mayur will go first. Li Qinkun laughed and pointed to the left side of the tomb palace door, where there was an ancient jade tablet that was quite old. Li Yu stepped forward and said, I have taken 20 steps, 2 more steps than before. As she spoke, she patted the jade tablet lightly with her palm. Traces of residual emerald mist leaked out from her palm and seeped into the jade tablet. The mist gathered into a small line of words that read 38, which meant that she had absorbed 38 drops of spiritual liquid in 3 hours. Shui Yuntian's face changed slightly, and his eyes were full of envy. He sighed and said, As expected of Li Yu, she is getting stronger each time. Last time, she only absorbed 30 drops, and this time, she gained 8 drops in one go. The gap between her and Lei is getting bigger and bigger. Last time, Shui Lei had only taken 13 steps and absorbed 20 drops of spiritual liquid. Now, Li Yu had absorbed almost twice as much as Shui Lei. Li Yu pulled back her hand expressionlessly, looked at Li Qinkun, and shook her head helplessly. She felt a little bored. What was the point of taunting the Shui family every year? Li Qinkun didn't care and smiled warmly. Brother Shui, it's your Shui Yu's turn. The elders of the Shui family all looked away, looking uncomfortable. They didn't know whether to stand or sit, and kept sighing. They looked at Shui Lei, who was standing in the crowd, and felt a little regret. If it was Shui Lei, the test result wouldn't be too bad, right? Although Shui Yu had high potential, he was only a stage for mortal fairy. How could his attainments in the divine path compare to Shui Yu's? It would be a miracle if he could take 8 steps. As for the amount of liquid he absorbed, the number was almost negligible, right? Shui Lei, who was in the crowd, curled his lips and said resentfully and proudly, A bunch of old things. You finally know how good I am? It's too late. I'll see how Shui Yu disgraces the Shui family. Shui Yuntian was a little embarrassed and sighed. You go. Su Yu walked up to the jade tablet calmly and said, I've taken 14 steps. The elders of the Shui family, who were originally gloomy, suddenly shivered and said in surprise, How many? Shui Yuntian also thought he had misheard. He thought to himself, could it be that he said 4 steps? 14, Su Yu repeated. Li Qinkun was surprised and cast an inquiring look at Li Yu. Li Yu nodded to confirm. Li Qinkun eyes narrowed, and he stared at Su Yu even more fiercely. In the crowd, Shui Lei's mouth froze, and he said, Impossible. How could his divine path withstand the pressure of 14 steps of the spiritual liquid? Su Yu didn't answer, but hit the jade tablet with his palm. With a soft sound, a large cloud of green fog burst out from Su Yu's palm and was absorbed into the jade tablet. The crowd was stunned. What the hell? Why is there so much fog? Did he bring the spiritual liquid out? Chapter 1596. 3? Only 3 drops? The number 3 appeared on the jade tablet. Everyone was stunned. No matter how unstable the divine path was, it couldn't be only 3 drops, right? Li Qinkun heaved a sigh of relief, while Shui Lei's lips curled into a sarcastic smile. On the other hand, the Shui family's faces darkened. However, someone else exclaimed, Wait, the number on the jade tablet is still changing. After the 3, there was an additional 3. 33? How is that possible? Someone exclaimed. He took 14 steps, but absorbed 33 drops, which is almost the same as Li Yu's. Theoretically, it's impossible. Either the jade tablet was detected wrongly, or Shui Yu understated the number of steps. Before they could finish their exclamations, the jade tablet changed again. After the 3, there was an additional 3. 333? Everyone was stunned. The jade tablet is broken. The jade tablet was indeed broken, and the 3 appeared again, one after another, until it filled the entire jade tablet. 33,333 drops. Haha, the jade tablet must be broken. Someone's mouth stiffened, and he smiled bitterly. Li Qianquan and Shuai Lei were relieved. It turned out that the jade tablet was broken. Only Li Yu, after a moment of shock, thought back to the scene she saw when she opened her eyes. She stared deeply at Su Yu and said, "Father, what if the jade tablet is not broken?" She said, "When I woke up, I did see Shuai Yu standing 14 steps away from the shore, but strangely, his back was facing the center of the lake." Li Qianquan's eyes narrowed. "You mean he walked back to the shore from the depths?" Li Yu didn't speak, but silently came to the jade tablet, raised her hand again, and patted the jade tablet. A cloud of green mist penetrated the jade tablet, and the two words 3-8 were condensed. The handwriting was clear, and there was no change. What did this mean? It meant that the jade tablet was not broken. The test just now was real. Li Qianquan gasped. Everyone was also numb. He absorbed 33,333 drops? What kind of powerful divine path was that? Strong as Shui Yuntian and Li Qianquan were level 1 Cavern World Masters. Their divine paths could only absorb more than 300 drops at most. Try again. Shui Yuntian's breathing quickened, so he felt somewhat helpless. He had not expected that there would be such a thing as a test. If he had known earlier, he would have made preparations. He would not have caused such a huge commotion. Thus, a scene that had never happened before appeared. The representatives of the two sides were re-examined twice. In the end, as expected, Su Yu slapped it with his palm and obtained 33,333 drops. Not a single drop was missing. Without a doubt, Su Yu had indeed absorbed that much. However, no one could imagine how Su Yu had done it. Such a huge amount was much more than the total amount of ancestral offerings in the past. What's going on? Did Shui Yu cheat? I think there's an 80 to 90% chance that he cheated. Otherwise, the numbers are too illogical. I feel that there's no need for Shui Yu to cheat. Who would believe such a frightening number? If it were 20 or 30, I will believe it. Shua, a figure flew out from the crowd like a rock spreading its wings. He stood proudly and said, "Humph, how hard is it to find out the truth? Will we know when the divine Tao matches us?" Shui Yuntian looked at him and said angrily, "Bastard, get back." In a public place, he actually made things difficult for his own people for his own selfish reasons. Shuai Lei raised his head and said, "Father, I think you and the elders are wrong. Why are you protecting Shui Yu? Only by facing mistakes can we face the future." He wanted to expose Su Yu in public and embarrass him in public. He wanted to make him lose face and be too ashamed to stay on the Twin Stars Island. Hearing this, the group of venerables were infuriated. When the two sides were fighting, he ran out to rebel. Wasn't this a joke to outsiders? Even the lonely mountain elder, who had always protected him, frowned and shouted, "Shuai Lei, step back. Now is not the time to talk about this." "No." Shuai Lei raised his head even higher. "You protect him, but it doesn't mean that I can tolerate his despicable behavior." He stared at Su Yu. "Come on, show me your divine Tao. Let's see if you're playing tricks." He felt that he had seen through Shui Yu. Su Yu's eyes were cold. He had promised to take good care of the Shui family. He really didn't want to turn against his brother. However, Shuai Lei had repeatedly challenged his patience. No matter how he gave in, Shuai Lei only got worse. Blindly giving in may not be respected and understood, especially in a powerful society. An eye for an eye was the best way. Compete with the divine Tao? Sure. So you stepped forward with an indifferent look. A 1,000-foot-tall divine Laksana stood behind him. The divine Laksana was extremely solid, like a real entity. Seeing this scene, the people present were surprised. A materialized divine Laksana? He is only a step away from igniting the divine statue, and he can become a god. Shui Yuntian was furious, but he couldn't help but be delighted. He secretly said, "You is too modest." He only said that he had improved a little. It turns out that he has achieved the upper tier of the divine Tao. But why is it the rain deity? Isn't you practicing the Qingyun path? Shuai Lei's pupils constricted, and his face became colder. You really hit it well. You actually practiced the divine Tao to the extreme without anyone noticing. Well, I will try and see how powerful your divine Tao is. He was already a god, and he could transform into a divine Laksana. A 1,000-foot-tall, golden, divine statue appeared. It was Shui Lei himself. From the aura it emitted, two Su Yu's divine Laksana combined were not as powerful as Su Yu's. Raging thunder divine path. Shui Lei stepped on the ground and punched with his fists. Su Yu stood still and did not intend to attack immediately. Instead, he continued to summon the divine Laksana. Boom! The second divine Laksana appeared. It was the mighty god divine path. But the two of them were still no match for Shui Lei. Therefore, the third divine Laksana appeared. Then the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth divine Laksana appeared. There were a total of 8 divine Laksana, shining with dazzling divine light, which shocked the world. Shui Lei, who had a hideous smile on his face, suddenly stopped in his tracks. He was horrified. 10 divine Laksana? How is that possible? How can one person possibly cultivate 10 divine Taos? What answered him was a group attack from 10 divine Laksana. The result was obvious. Shui Lei was beaten until he wailed like a ghost and howled like a wolf. The divine Laksana was directly destroyed and revealed his true form. His true form was a level 3 Cavern World Senior. The divine Laksana could not cause any harm to him. Su Yu withdrew the 8 divine paths and said to the pale-faced Shui Lei, "How was it? Did you find out that I was cheating?" Shui Lei was full of resentment. Just now, he was arrogant and wanted to teach Su Yu a lesson. In the end, he was taught a lesson by Su Yu. At this moment, he felt that he had become the laughingstock of the Twin Stars Island. Everything was because of Shui Yu. He had hidden so deeply just to embarrass Shui Lei today, didn't he? People were most afraid of stubbornness. The more Shui Lei thought about it, the more resentful he became. He shouted, "You despicable man, Dai!" His footsteps were like thunder, creating a series of sonic booms as he attacked Su Yu. "Bastard!" With a furious roar, Shui Yun Tian kicked him in the chest, causing his chest to explode. Under the intense pain, Shui Lei spat out several mouthfuls of blood and fainted. It was obvious that Shui Yun Tian's kick was powerful. It also showed the hatred and extreme disappointment in his heart. Not only did he make a fuss in public, but he also wanted to kill his younger brother Shui Yu out of humiliation. Shui Yun Tian really suspected that someone was pretending to be his son. A group of Grand Venerables also glared at him. If Shui Lei really killed a peerless genius who practiced 8 divine paths, it would be the greatest loss for the Shui family in 1,000 years. Yin Hai Grand Venerable, Feng Lin Grand Venerable, take this evil creature back to the family and lock him up for 100 years. Yes, the 2 Grand Venerables were disappointed in Shui Lei's performance. They dragged him away as if he was a dead dog. The Shui brothers turned against each other. According to common sense, they should have become a laughingstock. But no one in the Li family could laugh. It would be strange if they could laugh when they saw a peerless genius who practiced 8 divine paths in the Shui family. They might not even be able to sleep well at night. Apart from Li Yu, who had a strong desire to fight, the rest of the Li family looked terrible, as if they had eaten a bowl of flies. It was as if they were the ones who had lost face, not Su Yu. This child must not be allowed to live. Li Qinquan's chest heaved violently. He stared at Su Yu with eyes full of indescribable, murderous intent. He could predict what kind of treatment the Li family would receive in the future on Twin Stars Island. They would be crushed by the new king of the Shui family. Shui Yu had to die. The ancestral worship ceremony that shook Twin Stars Island came to an end. But Twin Stars Island was in an endless state of shock. It turned out that the low-key Shui Yu was the peerless genius who practiced 8 divine paths and looked down on Twin Stars Island. Although his current cultivation was not enough, his reputation had far surpassed Li Yu's, and he had become the number 1 heaven pride in everyone's hearts. As the source of this matter, Su Yu had attracted a lot of trouble. The most basic problem was how to gain the trust of Shui Yun Tian and the Shui family's Grand Venerables. Fortunately, Su Yu had already anticipated this day and had prepared an excuse. "Father, do you remember the elder who translated the secret manual of the alien clan?" Su Yu asked. Shui Yuntian was shocked. Are you trying to tell us that he was the one who gave you pointers? No. So you said, that elder was only my master's disciple. I addressed him as my brother. What? Everyone was shocked. Such an elder was only a disciple? Then, who was the elder's master? Who was Shui Yu's master? His name was Qing Yin Empress. All the divine paths I learned were taught by him. Empress? The Shui family was shocked. I once met her in the Sea of Constellation. She said that we were destined to meet, so she accepted me as her unofficial disciple. So you recalled his encounter with Xia Jingyu in the long river of time and space. My master taught me several divine paths. She said that I should concentrate on practicing them and not spread them to others. So, I practiced them secretly. I'm sorry that I didn't tell you in time. The Shui family was in a state of shock. After a long time, Shui Yuntian reacted. He stared at Su Yu and thought for a moment. Then, he waved his hand and said, since it was your master's request, of course, you can't leak the secret. He turned to look at the crowd. You heard what Shui Yu said today, but you can't spread it. Do you understand? All the elders knew the seriousness of the matter and nodded. The Lonely Mountain elders' eyes were cold. If anyone dares to spread it, I will be the first to disagree. The great potential that Shui Yu had shown now made him support him completely. Then, Shui Yuntian dismissed the crowd. All right, you can all go now. You stay here, Shui Yuntian said. Su Yu stood still and waited for the secret chamber to be empty. Then, Shui Yuntian closed the door and looked at Su Yu. His eyes were deep and sharp as if they could see through people's hearts. He said calmly, you are not my son. Who are you? Su Yu's heart skipped a beat. Had he been exposed? Chapter 1597. He could sense the murderous intent in Shui Yuntian's eyes, which could be released at any time. When many precious techniques could not be used, the consequences of fighting with a level 1 Cavern World Master were obvious. Shui Yuntian waited for a moment, then said, why don't I change the question? Is you are dead? Yes, Su Yu said honestly. Shui Yuntian's body shook visibly, and his handsome face seemed to have aged a lot. Did you kill him? Shui Yuntian's tone was calm, but under the calmness was an impending storm. Su Yu nodded. No. Who was it? Tuo Balun of the Feather God clan was on his way to the Murong family for a marriage alliance. He was chased by 3 men in black clothes who were holding shadowless swords. Shui Yuntian leaned against the armchair and slowly closed his eyes. He looked very tired. After a long while, he said slowly, it was I who killed you? I should have known that the Feather God clan would not tolerate the alliance of other forces. I didn't take any precautions. Then, his eyes shone brightly as he stared at Su Yu and locked his gaze on him. Su Yu faced him calmly without any fear. Aren't you afraid that I will kill you? Shui Yuntian asked. There was no longer any kindness in his eyes, only coldness and complicated emotions. Su Yu shook his head. If you really wanted to kill me, you should have exposed me when all the elders were present. There was no need to keep me alive. Shui Yuntian stared at him for a long time, then said, I really can't kill you. If you die, the glory that the Shui family has gained will be turned into humiliation. Perhaps I should have been more rational and calmer. It would not have been too late to expose you after I had used you. So you looked back at him fearlessly. But you still said it. So, what are you going to do with me? I won't kill you, Shui Yuntian said, his eyes turning sharp. But you will never step out of the Shui family. I can't be sure whether you are kind or evil to the Shui family. Shui Yuntian stood up and walked past him. You can stay safe under my watch, but if you show any signs of trying to escape, I will kill you on the spot without mercy. So he stood where he was and sighed slightly. Was this imprisonment? From the looks of it, only by slowly comprehending the 1,000 divine Daos would he be able to escape. At this time, the door was pushed open. It was the returning Lonely Mountain Elder, his face murderous. Patriarch, that evil creature, Shui Lei, ran away. When Shui Yuntian's eyes sharpened. Just now, when we were spying, Lone Mountain Venerable said, and he killed 10 of our people guarding the wall room. He even snatched the starlight grass. Shui Yuntian, who had been relatively calm, was instantly enraged. What? Which evil creature dared to kill his own people, and even snatched away the starlight grass that was about to be offered? Quick, bring me there to have a look. Shui and Tian immediately rushed to the wall reflection room. Although Suyu did not know what use the starlight grass had, from his urgent tone, it should be something very important. After thinking for a while, Suyu rushed to the wall reflection room. Shui and Tian had already arrived one step ahead of them. He stood beside the 10 corpses of his clansmen and stared at the blood splattering all over the ground, his fists tightly clenched. In particular, there was a sentence written in blood on the wall of the room. All of you will regret this. The ghastly words written in blood caused the expressions of the Shui family members to turn ugly. How many years had it been since Shui Lei had killed his own people and fled? More importantly, he had intentionally taken away the starlight grass. Chase him. If you find him, kill him on the spot. I, Shui Yuntian, will no longer have a son like Shui Lei. Shui Yuntian closed his eyes and said in pain. He had just learned that one of his sons had died, and now another had committed murder and fled. The double blow caused Shui Yuntian's legs to become weak, and he swayed lightly. Suyu sighed silently. Although Shui Lei's betrayal was due to his personality, Suyu was too outstanding, which was why he had been pushed away. He wanted to help, but Shui Yuntian had ordered him not to leave the Shui family home. The entire Shui family had been mobilized, from the clan master to the elders. Almost all of them had been mobilized. Only 2 or 3 elders were left to patrol the area. It could be said that they hated Shui Lei to the bone. Suyu returned to his courtyard, thinking about his future plans. Since he was under house arrest, he might as well go into seclusion and spend 10 years comprehending the last 1,000 divine paths in peace. However, as soon as he entered the courtyard, Suyu's keen senses picked up the scent of blood. His eyes narrowed as he stared at Shui Lei's bedroom. I didn't expect you to have such a plan. You didn't leave. Clang. The bedroom door was kicked open from the inside out. Shui Lei leaped out with a flip, grinning hideously. You didn't expect this, did you? Everyone thought that I had escaped, but I did the exact opposite and hid in the mansion, just so I could kill you, you bastard, before I left. I'm in this situation because of you. Looking around, Shui Lei's smile became even more hideous. Now, all the powerful elders in the family have left. I want to see who else can save you. Suyu turned and ran without hesitation. However, as a mortal fairy of the 4th realm, how could he outrun Shui Lei? Shui Lei blocked Suyu's way in no time. He said resentfully, if I don't kill you before I leave, I won't be able to take this lying down. Die. A palm filled with the power of a level 3 Cavern World Senior came fiercely. Suyu pulled out the iron sword with a backhand. Clang! The iron sword was shaken by the palm, and almost fell out of Suyu's palm. Die! Shui Lei grinned like an evil spirit, and his palm slammed down. Seeing that it was about to hit Suyu's body, he suddenly held the iron sword with his other hand and pulled out a long sword shrouded in moonlight with one hand. Humph! I knew you had this sword. Shui Lei had seen the beauty under the moonlight with his own eyes. How could he not be on guard? With a wave of his sleeve, he took out a gold-threaded glove and put it on his palm. Then he struck again. The sharp sword light of the beauty under the moonlight struck the gold-threaded glove, but it couldn't penetrate it. With a cracking sound, it bounced back. Die! Shui Lei grinned, and his palm slammed down. Suyu yelled, revolving demonic moon style. The beauty under the moonlight in his palm was like a full moon, drawing a mysterious trajectory. Wisps of soul-stirring sword energy swept out from the trajectory. Shui Lei was close, but he was caught off guard and struck by the curved sword energy. Apart from his palm, which was wearing the gold-threaded glove, his entire body was pierced by the sword energy. With a grunt, Shui Lei's body was sent flying. His body was riddled with hideous wounds. Suyu took advantage of the situation and flew back like a swallow. In a few moments, he had escaped from the Shui manor. He knew that this alone would not be enough to kill Shui Lei. After leaving the Shui manor, Suyu randomly chose a direction to escape in. Coincidentally, he had escaped to the entrance of the tomb palace where the ancestral worship ceremony was held. There were few people here. If he hid, he might have a chance of survival. Just as Suyu was about to hide, he saw a beautiful figure walking over from another path. Suyu cursed his bad luck. If he was seen by someone, there would be no point in hiding. But when the person raised her head, Suyu was surprised. She was none other than Li Yu. Her eyes were fixed on the jade tablet in front of the tomb palace. It looked like she was thinking about the number Suyu had left on it during the day. All of a sudden, she noticed Suyu, and she blinked her eyes in surprise. "It's you? Why are you here?" Li Yu asked. Due to the tense relationship between the two clans, Suyu felt bitter about the appearance of Li Yu. One Shuelei was not enough, and now there was Li Yu. "You seem to be running?" Li Yu noticed that Suyu was not only holding the beauty under the moon, but was also panting, looking like he was running for his life. Suyu didn't pay any attention to her and escaped through another path. But Shuelei had already caught up to him. "Humph, you can injure my sword techniques? Brother, you really hid yourself well." Shuelei was like a giant eagle, bringing with him a large black shadow as he fell from the sky, causing the ground to shake violently. "Today I must kill you. Watch my palm." Suyu clenched his teeth. Returning demonic moon style, the sword energy reverberated, sweeping in all directions. But Shuelei, who was prepared, turned nimbly, dodged the attack, and went straight for the top of Suyu's head. Suyu had no other choice but to activate the Tao Tai's eyes. But Suyu was unwilling to activate the Tao Tai's eyes for the last time for such a small fry. Clang! At that moment, a beautiful figure appeared in a flash. She held a small emerald sword, easily pushing Shuelei away. Shuelei looked over, surprised and shocked. "Li Yu, are you crazy? I'm trying to get rid of a threat to the Shui family, but you're blocking me? Get out of my way." Li Yu said coldly. "He is indeed a great enemy of the Li family in the future. But if I want to get rid of him, I will do it myself." Shuelei was furious. He was about to kill Suyu, but Li Yu appeared out of nowhere. Anyone in the Li family would want Shuelei to kill him, but Li Yu was an exception. Should she be called naive or just righteous? "You stupid woman." Shuelei clenched his teeth in hatred, but Li Yu's abilities were above his. If they really fought, he would be subdued by Li Yu. Furthermore, he had already shown himself. If this dragged on, when Shui Yun Tian and the rest returned, he would not be able to leave even if he wanted to. "Shui Yu, consider yourself lucky. But remember this, we won't just end like this." Shuelei leaped into the air. Not long after, the aura of the powerful fighters of the Shui family rushed back from the east, chasing after Shuelei. They chased him for hundreds of millions of miles, all the way to the sea. Shui Yun Tian was furious. B***starred. Not only had he killed his clansmen and stolen the starlight grass, but he was also hiding in the manor to continue his murder. Shui Yun Tian had made up his mind to kill him. Shuelei stopped, no longer fleeing. He laughed coldly. "What can you do to me?" Walala. The seawater below churned, parting in the middle as an enormous winged spacecraft emerged. Many powerful fighters in black robes stood on it, all of them equipped with shadowless swords. Divine Feather Clan. Shui Yun Tian was filled with killing intent. No wonder Shui Yu had gone to the Murong family for a marriage alliance. His secret route had coincidentally been ambushed by the Divine Feather Clan. He had a spy. Not even in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that this mole was actually his eldest son. Shuelei jumped onto the flying ship and laughed. "Father, elders, you're all getting old and can't see the situation clearly anymore. This region of the sea belongs to the Feather God race and the other two high-tier forces. Rather than struggling at death's door, why not rely on them?" Unfilial son, Shui Yun Tian was enraged. "You are willing to be a dog, but don't think that everyone else is like you, want to be a dog." Shuelei laughed coldly. He took out a small bag that glowed with a golden light. It was the precious starlight grass. Shui Yun Tian and the other elders' pupils constricted. They stared at the bag and shouted, "Put down the clan's item." Shuelei's cold smile deepened. "Why should I put it down? I went through a lot of trouble to buy it from the Starlight Pavilion." Saying this, he clenched his fist in front of them. With a muffled sound, the bag shattered, along with the starlight grass inside. "Humph, humph, humph. without the starlight grass. Let's see how you're going to make offerings. At that time, I'm afraid your lives will be worse than a dog like me." Everyone from the Shwe family was enraged. They swarmed forward, wishing they could grind Shwe bones to dust. However, the winged spacecraft's giant wings flapped lightly, bringing about boundless gales. In an instant, the spacecraft disappeared from the coastline. No matter how Shui Yun Tian and the others chased after it, they couldn't find it. Chapter 1598. In front of the palace tomb, Suyu stared at Liu. "Why did you save me?" Liu sheathed her sword. "No reason, just to have a worthy opponent or a goal to pursue in the future." After staring at her for a long time, Suyu cupped his fists. "I will remember today's kindness and repay it in the future." With a faint smile, Liu turned and walked down the palace tomb. Before she left, she turned her head and asked, "Can you tell me how you did it?" She pointed to the jade tablet. She had come here because she could not solve the doubts in her heart. Even if she cultivated all 8 paths, she could not absorb so many droplets. Suyu said, "I'm afraid not." Liu smiled. "You will find out sooner or later." Watching her leave, Suyu returned to the Shwe manor. The atmosphere in the manor was oppressive and heavy. The problem was no longer Shwe Lei's betrayal, but Shwe Lei's destruction of all the starlight grass. Suyu's return did not improve the expressions of the elders. Shui Yuntian glanced at Suyu, not blaming him for escaping the Shwe family. Instead, he was a little confused. He could have taken advantage of the situation to escape the Shwe family. Patriarch, in another 4 months, the emissary of the Sword Pavilion will come to collect the starlight grass. If we cannot hand over the starlight grass and complete this year's task, then I'm afraid we will lose the right to establish a foothold in the Sword Pavilion's sea region and be expelled. The lonely mountain elder's expression was extremely ugly. Shui Yuntian's expression was grave. "The only thing we can do now is to collect 100 starlight grass as soon as possible. Elder Baiyun, how many do we have in the treasury?" Elder Baiyun's expression was solemn. "Only 10. 10 was just in case they did not have enough starlight grass to be used as a supplement." The starlight grass was very rare, growing at the bottom of the Sword Pavilion sea. Not only were they difficult to find, but each one was guarded by a level 2 star beast. Thus, each one was hard to come by. Even the resourceful Star Pavilion only had a few hundred starlight grass in storage every year. The various forces came to purchase them, strictly limited in quantity. Thus, it was very difficult to buy more. The lone mountain elder's expression was gloomy. "Supplement? How?" Every year, only 1 or 2 would occasionally appear on Twin Star Island, and the Shwe and the clans would plunder those that could be harvested. It's the same for the other forces. They don't even have enough for themselves, so it's impossible for them to sell it to us. As for the Star Pavilion, let's not talk about whether they will make an exception and sell it to us for a second time. The journey alone will take at least half a year. We won't make it in time. The elders' faces were incomparably gloomy. The Shwe family had already reached a moment of life and death. Suyu, who was listening at the side, understood. The Sword Pavilion was the overlord of the sea region. Any faction that set foot in the Sword Pavilion's territory had to submit to them and offer 100 stalks of starlight grass every year. If they couldn't meet the requirements, they would be immediately expelled from the territory. In the past, there was once an island power that was ranked 5th. It was only 3 stalks away, but it was also chased away by Jian Xian with cruel methods. The Shwe family's ranking was lower than that island, and they only had 10 stalks of starlight grass. Most of the island forces spent most of their manpower and resources on searching for starlight grass in the past year. Only the Shwe family and the Li family, who had a deep foundation, had the financial resources to buy directly from the Star Pavilion. Now that something had happened to the Shwe family, the deadline for offering was approaching. How could they not worry that their hair would turn white? Hearing this, Shui Yuntian sighed deeply. "Pass on my order. With the elders as the leaders, each of you will lead a team of people to the Sea of Constellations to search for starlight grass." The Shwe family had run out of ideas. They could only use the dumbest and most dangerous method, which was to mobilize the power of the whole family to search for starlight grass. Suyu said, I will go to the sea too. I have cultivated a kind of divine path of searching, and I have a very special sense of spiritual treasures. Hearing this, the eyes of the elders suddenly lit up. There was such a strange divine path. If it was true, searching for starlight grass would be twice the result with half the effort. Shui Yuntian's face was also filled with surprise. But when he realized Su Yu's true identity, his eyes were filled with deep, complex emotions. He said coldly, You stay in the family. It's dangerous outside, so your safety is not endangered. The elders thought about it and agreed. Shui Yu was the future of the Shui family. Even if the Shui family was really expelled, with a junior like Shui Yu growing up, how could they not rise again? The Lone Mountain Elder said earnestly, Yes, Shui Yu, we will mobilize the power of the whole family. It doesn't matter if you are here or not. You stay in the family. At this point, Su Yu could only give up. Soon, the 30 elders of the family led thousands of people in the family and dispersed. They headed for the most famous dangerous place in the Sea of Constellations, the Evil Ghost Strait. It was the place where the most starlight grass was found, but it was also the most dangerous place. The Evil Ghost Strait was the only place where it was possible to excavate 90 starlight grass in 4 months. Looking up at their departing figures, Suyu silently entered the training room and isolated himself to comprehend the remaining 1,000 divine paths. Time passed in a flash. 2 months had passed. Suyu finally succeeded in comprehending one divine path with the remaining energy from the spiritual liquid. There were only 999 left. Woo! A sorrowful, heavy, and drawn-out sound of a horn echoed in the Shui family's mansion. Suyu sighed silently and carved another mark on the ground in front of him. In addition to the previous marks, there were a total of 10 marks. These were the elders who had fallen in the past 2 months. The sound of a horn indicated that an elder was in danger. As for the clan members with weaker cultivations, the casualties were incalculable. The entire Shui family was shrouded in a sorrowful and desperate atmosphere. Clan Master, why didn't you ask Brother Shui Yu to help? Shui Mei's grandfather, Elder Bai Yun, had fallen a month ago. The once charming and affectionate Shui Mei's face was filled with sorrow and confusion. Brother Shui Yu's divine path is helpful to everyone. If he could help, grandfather might not have to take the risk of exploring the depths of the strait, and he wouldn't have died in the mouth of the star beasts. Yes, Brother Shui Yu has created miracles again and again. Why didn't you ask him to help? Shui Ruxu, who had also lost a loved one, questioned. Faced with the questioning of the clan members, Shui Yuntian's heart wavered. Yes, Shui Yu obviously had an extraordinary background. If he helped, he might really be able to help them. But out of fear, or rather, out of anger, he shook his head decisively. There is no need to discuss this further. News has come from the front. The Lone Mountain Elder and the others have joined forces and found an undeveloped land with no less than 50 starlight grass. They can do it. They can definitely do it. The Evil Spirit Strait was dark and bottomless. It was like a large open mouth, waiting for the creatures that greedily gathered the starlight grass to enter. The Lone Mountain Elder, Elder Maple Leaf, Elder Xianqing, and the other 20 elders gathered. Behind them were nearly 700 clan members. They gathered together and looked at the seabed filled with white bones. Among the white bones, there was starlight grass emitting golden light everywhere. There are a total of 53 starlight grass. If we succeed this time, in addition to the 20 we found before, we will not be far from completing the mission, the Lone Mountain Elder said. According to our observations for half a month, there are a total of 10 star beasts in that area. 10. Everyone's hearts shrank. This was the largest group of star beasts they had encountered so far. What followed would be a bloody battle. Don't be afraid. As long as we follow our previous division of labor, we will definitely be able to kill them all, the Lone Mountain Elder said. Everyone gathered their courage and nodded deeply. When a wisp of clear light pierced through the sea and shone on this place, the Lone Mountain Elder said, Now is the time when the star beasts are sleeping. It is the best time to act. Everyone, Success or failure will depend on this battle. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The 700 clan members, led by the 20 Shui family elders, charged forward with indomitable will. Such a powerful aura awakened some of the star beasts. The fierce beasts, with their powerful cultivation, instantly devoured dozens of clan members. Screams, accompanied by blood, filled the evil spirit strait. The smell of blood awakened more sleeping star beasts. They roared and rushed out. The lone mountain elders' eyes were red. Kill. The survival of the Shui family depends on us. Both sides fought bloody battles. The Shui family members were eaten in large numbers. The sound of their bodies being chewed and the miserable screams interweaved into a tragic scene. The bloody battle lasted for a full day and night. When the 10 giant bodies of the beasts fell to the ground, the remaining Shui family members revealed victorious smiles. Even though they had broken limbs, even though they were exhausted, even though there were less than 100 of them left, they had won. The Shui family was saved. Lonely Mountain Tribe leader, we won. Venerable Qingshan said with a smile. His old eyes were filled with tears of sorrow, because the one lying at his feet was his only son. Yes, we won. The Lone Mountain Elder also smiled, crying and smiling. His expression was indescribably desolate. Of the 20 elders, only 9 remained. Of the 700 clan members, only 90 remained. They had paid a heavy price for the final victory. Gather them, bring them back, and give them to the elder. The Lone Mountain Elder wiped away his tears. Covered in blood, he fell to the ground in exhaustion. Ah! Mournful screams suddenly broke the silence at the bottom of the sea. 3 clan members who were collecting starlight grass were suddenly entangled by tentacles that stretched out from under the corpses. The tentacles devoured their flesh and blood in an instant, leaving only white bones behind. A ruthless aura rose from the seabed into the sky. The entire seabed began to tremble. No, it began to move. Roar. A beast's roar shook them all off the seabed. Looking from the sky, everyone inhaled sharply. How was that seabed? It was clearly the head of a gigantic snake. The snake head was covered with tentacles, using starlight grass to attract those who did not know and then devoured them. And the giant snake only revealed the snake head and its enormous body, hidden in the dark canyon. The Lone Mountain Elder's pupils shrank to the size of needles, his body trembling as he shouted, "Run! It's a Star Beast King! Star Beast King, a legendary existence." Each one had the terrifying power to fight against a superforce like Jian Xian. Xiao, xiao, xiao. Tentacles suddenly shot out, entangling dozens of clan members and instantly sucking them into white bones. The 3 elders were no exception. The Lone Mountain Elder roared, using his powerful divine power to form a giant barrier. He shouted tragically, "Run! Tell the elder, don't send more people." Bang! The barrier did not last long before the tentacles broke it and entangled the Lone Mountain Elder. His body withered at a speed visible to the naked eye. Using the last of his strength, the Lone Mountain Elder gave a final roar. Quickly, run! Lone Mountain Elder! Everyone roared in grief and indignation as they watched the Lone Mountain Elder turn into white bones. They fled out of the strait. The giant snake's cold eyes stared at them coldly. It did not chase them, but continued to pretend and continue to lure unknowing creatures to come. Inside the Shui family's secret chamber, crack! Su Yu's fingers shook and the ground shattered into several cracks. His heart was in turmoil, almost completely destroyed. Su Yu's pupils shrank, and he got up and pushed open the stone door. "I can't wait any longer." He promised to take care of the Shui family. Chapter 1599. In the sky above the Shui family, the horn sounded like a song. The clansmen listened to the horn in shock, unable to believe that it was true. 14 horns in a row meant that 14 elders of the older generation had fallen. This was more than what had been sacrificed in the past 3 months. Counting carefully of the 30 elders that had gone, only 6 were still alive. The Shui family was stunned, unable to accept such a heavy blow. An emergency meeting was held in the Shui family hall, as expected. The corners of Shui Yuntian's eyes were red and swollen, with tears that had yet to fade. Almost completely annihilated. He knew what that meant. It meant that the entire Shui family was on the decline. With the death of the older generation, how could they stand on Twin Star Island? The accident had pushed the Shui family into the abyss overnight. The hall was filled with sobs. Whether it was the youths who had lost their elders, the middle-aged who had lost their relatives, or the elders who had caught up with the decline of the Shui family. The entire hall was filled with deep sorrow. Patriarch, perhaps we should have accepted our fate and left the Sword Pavilion Sea region. Otherwise, we wouldn't have fallen to this state. Someone wailed. What's the use of finding the starlight grass for the Shui family now? The Leaf family can easily wipe us out. I really hate Shui, that bastard, for causing so much harm to the Shui family. Patriarch, let's retreat. Before the Leaf family reacts, let's conserve our strength and find a new place to rest. The heart-wrenching cries, the choked-up pleading, were like sharp knives stabbing into his heart. The Shui family had fallen into the hands of his generation. He could not die in peace. He also wanted to preserve the strength of the Shui family and make a comeback. But how could it be so easy to find a new place? The good places had already been occupied by the major forces. If the Shui family left Twin Star Island before they could find a suitable place, the remaining clansmen would fall in a pool of blood. The future of the Shui family was bleak. Patriarch, you make the decision, some clansmen said sorrowfully. Shui Yuntian sighed to the sky, unable to make up his mind. Patriarch, why didn't you ask Brother Shui Yu to come out? Shui Mei questioned, glaring at Shui Yuntian with resentment. If you had listened to the opinions of your people, if you had been less stubborn and asked Brother Shui Yu to come out earlier, the Lone Mountain Venerable, Qingshan Venerable, and my grandfather White Cloud Venerable wouldn't have died. That's right. Patriarch, what are you thinking? You clearly need Brother Shui Yu's divine path, yet you restrict his freedom? Why? Shui Yuntian felt bitter in his heart. Why? Why didn't he think about the safety of his family? But what was the result? Shui Yu did not harm anyone in the Shui family. Instead, it was his stubbornness and obstinacy that caused the deaths of nearly all the elders. Who had harmed the Shui family? No matter how he looked at it, it was him, Shui Yuntian, and not Shui Yu. Some of the older generation seemed to have grasped a glimmer of hope, and they said, "That's right, Patriarch. Why didn't you ask Shui Yu to come out of seclusion? With his mysterious master status, isn't it easy for him to protect our Shui family?" Hearing this, everyone seemed to see hope. I almost forgot that Shui Yu has an extremely formidable master. Patriarch, quickly give the order to ask Shui Yu to come out of seclusion. Shui Yuntian was silent, and his eyes showed hesitation. What are you hesitating for? The Shui family is at a critical juncture of life and death. What's in your head? Shui Yuntian felt bitter in his heart. It was not that he did not want to give the order, but would Shui Yu still listen to it? If he had been imprisoned for half a year, he would already be magnanimous if he did not resent the person who imprisoned him. To ask him to help the person who imprisoned him, that was a pipe dream. It was really difficult for him to speak, but facing the surging clansmen, he could only say bitterly, "Pass the order. Ask Shui Yu to come out." Clang. At that moment, several servants ran over in a panic and said, "This is bad." Second young master, he broke out of seclusion and went straight to the evil spirit straight. Hearing this, everyone was overjoyed. You're saying that he went straight to the evil spirit straight? That's great. He must have the confidence to turn the situation around. Really? I knew that when the family is in trouble, Brother Shui Yu will definitely come forward. The members of the Shui family were overjoyed, barely able to walk out of their sadness. Only Shui Yuntian sat stiffly on the ground, his eyes blank and his face filled with a deep, complicated look until it finally turned into a soft sigh. Suyu hurried along the stars and the moon, heading straight for the evil spirit strait. 3 days later, at a place 10 billion kilometers away from the evil spirit strait, he encountered the Shui family who had escaped. 6 elders were in a sorry state, and 23 injured clansmen. The scene was completely different from the grandiose scene when they left. They were also surprised to meet Suyu. But more than that, they felt grief, anger, and shame. Elders, what happened? Suyu asked. Elder Qing Lu said, It's the Star Beast King. It was not difficult to see the lingering fear in his words. Star Beast King? Suyu's eyes narrowed slightly. He had not been idle for the past 6 months, so he had more or less learned about star beasts. Star beasts were the collective term for level 5 Cavern World Venerables to level 1 Cavern World Venerables. But the Star Beast King was the name of the overlord of the galaxy. No wonder they were almost wiped out in an instant. It turned out that they had encountered that kind of existence. Everyone, please follow me back to the evil spirit strait. Suyu said, back. They had not yet recovered from the shock, and their eyes were filled with terror. Are the lone mountain elder and the others going to sacrifice themselves in vain? Suyu looked at them. I can't promise that I can eliminate the Star Beast King and avenge them now, but at least I will not disappoint the sacrifice of their clansmen. Hearing that, everyone was touched. They had indeed sacrificed tragically, especially the lone mountain elder. At the last moment, he blocked the Star Beast King with his own strength and used his own blood to open a path of survival for them. Suyu's words touched their hearts. Elder Qing Yi clenched his fists and said, All right, I'll go back with you. For the family, for the Starlight Grass, we have sacrificed so much. If we retreat now, will we be letting them down? Hearing that, the elders and their clansmen chose to go back. How many Starlight Grass have you collected so far? Suyu asked. 20. There are still 70 left to the target of 90. 70? Suyu's eyes shone. If that's the case, we still need to pay attention to the Starlight Grass of the Star Beast King. All of you wait on the water. I have 2 orders for you, Suyu said. First, clear the surrounding sea area. Don't let anyone come near. Second, prepare the flying boat so that we can escape immediately. All right, everyone obeyed. Suyu dove into the water alone and went deep into the evil ghost strait. Following the coordinates provided by Elder Qing Yi, he saw a seabed beside a cliff in the depths of the strait. 50 Starlight Grass emitted a golden glow, luring those who did not know to approach. Suyu's eyes were cold. With a thought, 1,001 Dharma Laksana appeared with him as the center. Go, Suyu said. The 1,001 Dharma Laksana pounced forward. Such a huge commotion immediately awakened the Star Beast King. The seabed churned, and a giant snake head, similar in color to the pitch-black strait, suddenly rose. 2 huge eyes like the sun looked over leisurely. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of poison, corroding a large portion of the Dharma Laksana. However, there were many Dharma Laksana. One group was destroyed, and another group pounced forward. Their goal was not to attack it, but to pluck the Starlight Grass on its head. Pop! The first Starlight Grass was plucked. The giant snake roared angrily, shaking its giant head violently and smashing another Dharma Laksana. However, more and more Dharma Laksana pounced forward to pluck the Starlight Grass. The 2 sides were in a deadlock for 10 breaths. Of the 1,001 Dharma Laksana, less than 100 were left. However, all 53 Starlight Grass had been plucked. Whether it was pain or humiliation, the giant snake roared angrily and crushed the remaining 100 Dharma Laksana. Suyu got the Starlight Grass, stared at the giant snake coldly, and said, I'll remember this debt of blood. Sooner or later, I'll cut off your head and worship them. Swoosh! Stepping on the water, Suyu rushed out of strait. On the surface of the water, the 6 elders had already prepared the flying boat according to Suyu's instructions. The 6 elders instilled their divine energy at the same time, pushing the flying boat to its limit. Let's go! Suyu leaped onto the flying boat and shouted. Whoosh! The sound of breaking the sound barrier resounded across the sea. The flying boat splashed up boundless waves, leaving several residual shadows as it escaped. Almost as soon as they left, a giant snake head rushed out from the water. Its blood-red eyes were filled with extreme ruthlessness. At the same time, there was darkness under the water covering a radius of tens of millions of miles. The giant snake's body was vaguely visible, twisting and turning. It looked around angrily, but the flying boat was nowhere to be seen. In its rage, it roared violently, its huge body slapping the surface of the sea, causing a huge tsunami that covered a radius of hundreds of millions of miles. Sensing the terrifying vision of heaven and earth behind them, the 6 elders' hearts trembled. When they turned to look, all of them gasped. "Shuiyu, what did you do?" Elder Qingyao was shocked. "You actually angered it to such an extent." Suyu opened his palm, and a golden light enveloped the entire flying boat. He said calmly, "Nothing. I just helped the Lone Mountain Elder and the others to retrieve the starlight grass that belonged to them." Looking at the 50 or so starlight grass, everyone had mixed feelings. Elder Qingya's old eyes were suddenly filled with tears, and he knelt down before them. The people on the ship cried bitterly on the spot. It was for these 50 or so starlight grass that the Lone Mountain Elder and the others had sacrificed themselves. Suyu said, "Cheer up. The rise and fall of the family all depends on you." Elder Qingya wiped away his tears, his eyes filled with determination. "We still need 17 starlight grass. Everyone, this is the final push. Let's give it our all. Even if we all die, we must find the last 17 starlight grass. Let's give it our all." Having experienced despair, their hearts were much more resolute than before, and they had the spirit to face death calmly. The news of this place was sent back to the family at once. At the moment, the important core members of the Shui family had already used the clan hall as a place to rest and live. Whether it was for discussions, gathering, passing on information, or resting, it was all done here. That included Shui Yuntian, who could not sleep properly, and stayed in the hall to deal with the various problems that came with it. At that moment, a message arrived, and Shui Yuntian read it immediately. After reading it, he slapped the table and stood up in ecstasy. "Shui Yu has succeeded. The starlight grass on the Star Beast King's head has all been collected." What? Many members of the family gathered around, fighting to read the message in the Jade Scroll. "My God, it's actually true. He really did it." Hiss. More than 50 in one go, plus the ones collected over the past 2 months. That's about it. However, there were people who still looked gloomy. How many members of the family were sacrificed? Every starlight grass collected before this was accompanied by the death of many members of the family. They had taken the risk to return to the evil spirit strait and fought the Star Beast King. That number of casualties, perhaps they had all been wiped out? Hearing that, everyone's faces turned gloomy, until the second Jade Scroll sent a message. Shui Yuntian read it nervously, his body trembling uncontrollably. He said, "No." "What do you mean, no?" Everyone was confused. Shui Yuntian's voice was trembling. No one knew if it was from shock or disbelief. "No, not a single casualty." The scene was silent for a moment. Then there was an explosion of earth-shaking cheers. "No casualties, and the starlight grass on the Star Beast King's head? Hiss. How is that possible?" "That's great. Brother Shui, you can do it. I told you, he can definitely do it." Tears rolled down Shui Mei's pretty face, and she looked at the clan leader with a complicated expression. If they had sent Shui Yu to fight at the beginning, would there have been the sacrifice of the Lone Mountain Elder and the others? Some of the clansmen came to their senses and looked at Shui Yuntian. They did not blame him, nor did they blame him. But in Shui Yuntian's eyes, it was like a sharp arrow piercing through his heart. Indeed, if he had listened to everyone's opinions from the beginning, if he had allowed Shui Yu's request from the beginning, perhaps the outcome would not have been like this. He sat down dejectedly, looking at the clan members who were in dire straits, looking at the dark future ahead of them. Deep regret welled up in his heart. Since Shui Yu's return, how much glory had he brought to the Shui family? How much hope had he brought back? But because of a faint resentment, he had arrogantly placed Shui Yu under house arrest, even though he knew in his heart that Su Yu would not harm the Shui family. What was the result of that? The Shui family had suffered unprecedented destruction. He was the center of the family. Su Yu, who was unaware of this, led the Shui family members in search of the starlight grass in the sea of constellations. Having the divine path of seeking had played a significant role. After a month had passed, they had found another 12 starlight grass, and there were only 5 left of the 90. What was even more commendable was that there had been no casualties in obtaining each one. Good news was passed back to the Shui family one after another. The sorrowful atmosphere was diluted little by little, and they found hope again. The Shui family members who had followed Su Yu had also recovered from their sorrow. Shui Yu, there is still 5 left. According to our progress, there is still a month left. We have plenty of time, Elder Qingyi said. Take a break. You haven't rested for a month. Su Yu's expression was still haggard, but he shook his head resolutely. Continue searching, don't stop. Unless we place all 90 starlight grass in the treasury of the mansion, we must not let our guard down. Elder Qingyi was overcome with emotion. All right. Beep, beep, beep. All of a sudden, the communication jade pendant at Elder Qingyi's waist beeped urgently. Elder Qingyi smiled. It must be the clan master. He has sent another commendation message. Unexpectedly, when he opened it, he heard Shui Yuntian's solemn order. Put down the search mission and return to the clan immediately. Special Envoy Jianxian has arrived early. Splash! Elder Qingyi's palm trembled, and the jade pendant fell into the sea. Su Yu was shocked. The special envoy had arrived a month early? This was illogical. If he had to explain, the only possibility Su Yu could think of was the Leaf family. It was impossible for the Leaf family to be unaware of the Shui family's dire situation. Striking while the iron was hot, banishing the Shui family completely would be in the best interest of the Leaf family. But now, they were still 5 short 100. I will stay behind and continue searching. Elder Qingyi, bring the starlight grass back quickly. So he said, he could only rely on luck. If they could find 5 in time, there might be hope. If not, all their efforts would be wasted. Chapter 1600. The Shui family was solemn. The hall was arranged neatly, and all the clansmen were clean. All of them had tense expressions as they received the sudden arrival of the Sword Pavilion's envoy. Lord Hong, must we harvest the starlight grass now? Shui Yuntian frowned and asked. Special Envoy Hong Lei was quite young, not even 30 years old, but his strength was quite shocking, not losing to Shui Yuntian. Judging from the aura it emitted, it was even stronger than him. Hong Lei leisurely leaned against the armchair with a lazy expression. Don't tell me I'm here to accompany you to find the starlight grass? Shui Yuntian said, but sir, there's still a month before the deadline. Unfortunately, we've encountered an accident and are currently searching for 100 stalks of starlight grass. I beg Envoy to forgive us for a few more days and will definitely offer you the exact amount. Hong Lei faintly said, if your Shui family is a small force that ranks at the bottom, this envoy can understand why you're still searching for starlight grass. But with such a large foundation, you still haven't managed to gather all the starlight grass for an entire year. I have to say, your Shui family has never placed the matter of starlight grass in your heart. Shui Yuntian was infuriated. The other party had collected the tributes in advance, but they were blaming the Shui family for not preparing in advance. What kind of logic was this? Unfortunately, his identity meant that Shui Yuntian could only lower his head and admit his mistake. Yes, the special envoy is right. Our Shui family had prepared half a year in advance, but because of an accident, the starlight grass was destroyed. Shui Yuntian's tone was sincere. I mobilized my clansmen to search, sacrificed 24 venerables, and lost more than half of my clan's power. Only a few days ago did I receive news that we finally managed to gather 95. Only 5 more. Envoy, please consider the sacrifice of our clansmen for the sake of the starlight grass, and give us a month's tribute before the deadline. Shui Yuntian said. Hong Lei snorted and laughed. Firstly, your starlight grass was destroyed, which means that you really don't care about the starlight grass and don't care about Jianxian at all. Secondly, the death of your clansmen is your own business. Why should I sympathize with you? Hong Lei stood up and said, Shui Yuntian, hand over the starlight grass now. If you can't gather all the starlight grass, I'll have no choice but to report to the higher-ups that your Shui family hasn't gathered all the starlight grass. Shui Yuntian clenched his fist tightly. It was all the fault of the Leaf family. There was no reason for the Leaf family to be unaware of the Shui family's recent movements. Li Qianquan was wild with joy when he found out that the Shui clan had lost all the starlight grass. He thought that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so he invited the Sword Pavilion's special envoy to hand over the starlight grass. What was even more amazing was that special envoy Hong was interested in Li Yu of the Li family. Li Qianquan also had the intention of betrothing Li Yu to Hong Lei. In this way, it would be easy for Hong Lei to seize the opportunity to expel the Shui family. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At that moment, Elder Qing Yi and the others, who had been on the road for 3 days and 3 nights, returned under Su Yu's orders. Patriarch, we're back. Elder Green Leaf glanced at Hong Lei and bowed respectfully. Then, he handed all the starlight grass he had gathered to the clan chief. There were a total of 85 stalks of starlight grass stained with the blood and lives of the Shui family. Shui Yintian took it, his palms heavy. He walked to Hong Lei and said, "Envoy, I'm only short of 5 stalks. Please forgive me for half a month, just half a month. I'll personally go out and look for the starlight grass. How about it?" He secretly stuffed an interspatial ring that contained the Shui family's belongings. He bribed Shui Yuntian. "What kind of person do you take me for?" Hong Lei pushed Shui Yuntian away. The starlight grass fell to the ground, emitting a lonely glow. Shui Yuntian's heart was covered in blood. Those were the fruits of his clansman's blood. "Umph! Shui Yuntian, I give you a month to leave Twin Star Island. Otherwise, don't blame Jian Xian for being merciless and using ruthless methods." Hong Lei said coldly, then swaggered off. The remaining Shui family members were filled with grief and indignation. This is too much. Elder Greenleaf's chest was pounding. It was not even a month, yet he was forcing them to leave. Shui Yuntian's eyes were filled with grief. "If I don't bully you when you're weak, when will I? Pass down my orders. Pack up and leave Twin Star Island in 3 days." If they wanted to leave, they should leave. Dragging their feet would only give the Leaf family an opportunity to exterminate them. "Patriarch!" The crowd cried bitterly. Elder Greenleaf was in tears. "What about Shuiyu? He is still searching for the starlight grass in the sea. He has not given up." Shui Yuntian said, "There is no need to inform him. Our Shui family already owes him a lot. Let's not implicate him further." Unexpectedly, none of the clansmen raised any objections. Shui Mei laughed bitterly. "That's fine. The Shui family is a sinking ship. Sea of constellations. Pop!" Su Yu retrieved another stalk of starlight grass from a dangerous place. 5 stalks. Su Yu leaped out of the water, his face filled with joy. "I've finally found 5 stalks of starlight grass in 5 days." He heaved a long sigh, looked in the direction of Twin Star Island, and immediately headed over. "Young man, please wait." A warm voice entered his ears. Su Yu was shocked. Someone was nearby, but he had not noticed. Turning his head to look, he saw a middle-aged man riding a red wine gourd, smiling at Su Yu. Su Yu was on guard. "Senior, is there anything I can help you with?" The middle-aged man leaped off the wine gourd, stepping on the water's surface. "I've been observing you for a few days and realized that the divine path you cultivate is quite interesting. Finding the starlight grass is very easy. In just 10 days, you found 5 stalks. Such a great talent. Have you ever thought of coming to Sword Pavilion to develop yourself?" A few days of observation? Su Yu was secretly shocked. This person's cultivation level was extremely high. Su Yu had not noticed anyone spying on him in the dark for many days. But Su Yu was even more surprised by his identity. "Sword Pavilion?" Su Yu stared at him. "You are Envoy Tian Jinyuan Jian Xian." The middle-aged man smiled, without the arrogance of someone from Sword Pavilion. Su Yu was surprised. "Envoy Tian Jinyuan? You're the envoy who came to Twin Star Island to collect the starlight grass?" Tian Jinyuan nodded. "How did you know?" A doubtful expression appeared on Su Yu's face. "From what I know, the real envoy Tian Jinyuan has already arrived at Twin Star Island." "Who are you?" Tian Jinyuan laughed. Envoy Tian Jinyuan has always been a pair. One executes and the other inspects. Are you satisfied? He took out a stone tablet formed from sword energy. The words Tian Jinyuan were carved on it. This was the unique identification of Sword Pavilion. The other forces could not, and did not dare, imitate it. So its senior envoy. I am the young master of the Shui family of Twin Star Island. Shuiyu, Suyu said. Tian Jinyuan was surprised. Oh, the young master of the Shui family of Twin Star Island? I don't remember your name. I think it's Shui Lei. Suyu said, I am ranked second. I'm a second young master. Tian Jinyuan suddenly understood. No wonder. Speaking of which, your qualifications are not much weaker than your elder brothers. You have not yet become a cave world master, but your divine path has already reached the limits of the mortal fairy. You are only a step away from breaking through, right? Suyu was modest. I dare not be complacent before I take that step. Haha, arrogance suffers, modesty gains. I didn't expect the Shui family to have such a good descendant, Tian Jinyuan said. How about it? Are you willing to come back to Sword Pavilion with me? Your divine path is very special. Apart from those worldly spirits, it is innately there. Few people can achieve it through additional training. If you join Sword Pavilion, I will recommend you with great sincerity. I guarantee you will be put in an important position. So you did not refuse immediately. This is a serious matter. Please ask my father. Tian Jinyuan laughed. Wonderful. Who wouldn't be ecstatic to receive such a great opportunity and want to agree on the spot? You still remember to ask your father. Your filial piety is commendable. Fine, go to Twin Star Island. I believe Shui Yun Tian will agree. How could he not agree? Entering Sword Pavilion was an unimaginable opportunity for the Shui family. It was enough to bring honor to their ancestors. Usually, they couldn't even beg for it. How could they take the initiative to get a piece of pie? With Tian Jinyuan's help, the 3-day journey was completed in 1 day. However, when he returned to the Shui family, Suyu was stunned. The huge Shui family was empty. Even the servants and maids seemed to have evaporated from the world. Only a group of refugees and beggars were left, searching for the remaining belongings in the house. It was like a carnival. Tian Jinyuan was stunned. This is the Shui family, right? I have been here before. I don't remember the location wrong. Where is he? Suyu's face was as gloomy as water. A deep murderous intent was released without concealment. The Leaf family. Tian Jinyuan was startled. For some reason, it was a murderous intent released by a young man of the 4th realm of the mortal fairy, but Tian Jinyuan felt like he was facing a killing god. That kind of murderous intent couldn't be condensed without hundreds of millions of killings. What's wrong with this kid? Tian Jinyuan was secretly surprised. He said, Calm down, let me ask my companion first. When he finished speaking, his eyes swept in the direction of the Leaf family. There, let's go. In the Leaf family's house. Li Qianquan was in a good mood. His face was flushed. He said happily, Years of depression have been resolved. I really should thank Shui Lei. Without him destroying the starlight grass, the Shui family wouldn't have fallen into such a predicament. Li Jun sneered. Indeed, I didn't expect it. Not long ago, they were swaggering in front of the Li family, causing us to lose face. It has only been a few months, humph. Master, the Li family can finally monopolize the Twin Star Island. The elders of the Li family were also very happy. Li Qianquan also felt refreshed. He sighed. The only regret is that old fox Shui Yun Tian escaped too quickly. I didn't have time to scrape some flesh off of him. Everyone was overjoyed. Hong Lei and Li Yu returned. Li Yu's face was cold. She deliberately kept her distance from Hong Lei. Hong Lei was beaming with joy. Special Envoy Hong, why don't you let Yuera accompany you more? The scenery of the Twin Star Island is unique, and there are a few other good places. Li Qianquan immediately stood up and said flatteringly. Hong Lei waved his hand. Enjoy yourself. Besides, if Yuera is tired, won't I be the one feeling sorry for her? The Li family members smiled mockingly and burst into laughter. Li Yu frowned. She was disgusted. Her goal was to destroy the Shui family. However, She felt ashamed to use such a despicable method. She didn't have a good impression of Hong Lei's help. I see. Then, Special Envoy Hong, why don't you rest for a while? Let's play another day. Hong Lei waved his hand. Forget it. My companions will be here soon. We'll stop here. When Yuera's coming-of-age ceremony comes, I'll give her a betrothal gift and marry her. Okay. Li Qinquan was overjoyed. Marrying his daughter to Jianxian meant that the Li family's foundation on the Twin Star Island was completely stable. Swish! The sound of breaking the sound barrier was heard. Hong Lei, come here. I have something to ask you. Hong Lei said, Speak of the devil. Chapter 1601. Li Qinquan and the others sent Hong Lei out. Looking up, they saw a strange red wine gourd floating in the air above the Li family. A middle-aged man was sitting cross-legged on it. He must be the other special envoy in charge of supervision. In theory, his power was above Hong Lei's. Li Qinquan and the others looked at him respectfully and greeted him. Why does the person beside the emissary look like Shuiyu? A junior suddenly realized that there was another person standing beside the middle-aged man with his hands clasped behind his back. Looking closely, he looked very much like Shuiyu. Shuiyu was looking down from above, coldly staring at the Shui family. Hearing this, the initially cold Liu immediately raised her head and looked over. Her pretty face was filled with surprise. He actually came back. Moreover, he was accompanying another special envoy. Hong Lei did not know Shuiyu. He only thought that he was a junior that Tian Jinyuan knew, so he did not pay much attention to him. He greeted Tian Jinyuan, Special Envoy Tian. Tian Jinyuan asked, Hong Lei, what happened on this island? Why was the Shui family empty overnight? It's impossible for a force-ranked 8th to be attacked by a vicious enemy and have to flee overnight, right? Hong Lei said casually, Nothing much. I persuaded them to leave Twin Star Island. Su Yu's eyes shone with a cold light, and he turned his gaze toward Hong Lei. Tian Jinyuan was stunned. Persuade him to quit? What's your reason for dismissing him? Hong Lei said, I can't gather enough starlight grass. Hearing this, Tian Jinyuan frowned. The deadline for handing over the starlight grass is a month later. You actually persuaded them to give up in advance? Hong Lei didn't take it seriously and curled his lips. It's just a small Shui family. It's not a big deal to ask them to leave in advance. Impudent. Tian Jinyuan was enraged. What do you think the other forces that trust Jianxian will think? If they could be expelled at will before the deadline, who would dare to stay in the Sword Pavilion Sea region? Jianxian's bottom line is to collect the starlight grass on time, neither ahead of schedule nor behind schedule. Factions that delay the payment of starlight grass will be expelled. The envoy who collected the starlight grass in advance. Do you know what kind of crime it is? Banish the sect. In order to prevent the special envoy from abusing his power, the Sword Pavilion had long since established a rule that the special envoy was absolutely not allowed to change the deadline of the Sword Pavilion arbitrarily, and violators would be punished by being expelled from the sect. Hong Lei was displeased. He squinted his eyes and said, Special Envoy Tian, these rules exist in name only. There are so many brothers and sisters who threaten the families below them to ask for benefits, but I haven't seen the higher-ups deal with them. Why do you take it so seriously? With a solemn expression, Tian Jinyuan took out his communication jade pendant and entered the message solemnly. What are you doing? Hong Lei panicked and shouted. Tian Jinyuan said, What do you think? Tian, are you purposely going against me? Hong Lei was furious. I'm calling you Special Envoy out of respect for your master. If you really piss me off, do you believe that I won't make you leave the sword loft immediately? Tian Jinyuan said, Even if your master is the peak master of the first sword peak, he shouldn't be able to interfere with the appointment and dismissal of the entire sect, right? Hong Lei smirked. Of course, the first peak can't do it. But what about the sword pylon's young master? With a swoosh, Hong Lei took out a sword-shaped jade pendant with a unique snake-shaped mark on it. Tian Jinyuan was taken aback when he saw the jade token. He asked, The young master's personal jade token? This item rarely leaves the young master's side. How did it end up in your hands? Of course it's to carry out some special missions on behalf of the young master. Hong Lei kept the jade token proudly. How about it? Do you think that I can persuade the young master to expel a special envoy like you from the faction? Tian Jinyin glared at him, but his finger remained on the jade tablet, unable to continue entering. How could he be careless when this matter concerned his future? Tian Jinyuan's gaze changed for a long time. Then he turned to Su Yu and said, I'm sorry that I couldn't help you. His idea of persuading Su Yu to join the Sword Loft was extinguished. It was good enough that Shui Yu did not hate the Sword Loft. Why would he be willing to join the Sword Loft? Su Yu said, It's all right, as long as I know who it is. Coldly glaring at Hong Lei, Su Yu memorized his face. Who is he? Hong Lei felt Su Yu's gaze and shot him an unfriendly look. Tian Jinyuan thought for a moment, then said, Nobody. I met a friend by chance. He turned to give Su Yu a look, telling him to leave quickly. But how could Li Qianquan, who was below, let Su Yu go? He said, Special Envoy Hong. He is the second young master of the Shui family, Shui Yu. Hong Lei sneered. No wonder you look at me like that. Even your father is afraid of me. Who do you think you are? A mere young master. Scram. Li Qianquan's expression changed. He flew to Hong Lei's side and said, Special Envoy Hong, you can't. This person's talents are shocking. If we leave him be, he will be a threat in the future. Why don't we take the opportunity to? He made a gesture of slitting his throat. Hong Lei thought for a moment, then shook his head. It's best not to touch him unless it's necessary. Expelling the Shui family has already caused a great impact. If I kill the young master of the Shui family, the other forces will panic and leave the Sword Loft. I will be a sinner. When that time comes, my punishment will not just be expelling the faction. The old woman ignored Tian Jinyin and Hong Lei, walked towards Li Qianquan, and said, You are the owner of this place, right? Well, I have something to ask someone. If you can answer, you will be rewarded. Hearing that there would be a reward, Li Qianquan was overjoyed. To be able to get to know an existence at the level of a Star River Overlord was already something that he couldn't ask for. If he could get a reward, it would be a pleasant surprise. He couldn't help but think that once the Shui family left, the Li family's luck would take a turn for the better. Please ask, Senior. If I know, I will tell you everything I know. The old woman nodded. Good. I came to the Twin Star Island to visit a force called the Shui family. However, when I went to the Shui family just now, I found that the place was empty. I asked a few ordinary people, but none of them told me anything. Since you're the owner of this place, you should know the reason, right? As she spoke, Li Qianquan's expression gradually stiffened. In the end, he was as still as a wooden pole. This super expert at the level of a Star River Overlord is here to visit the Shui family? The old woman looked at him in surprise. You don't know either? Li Qianquan came to his senses. His face gradually paled as he cupped his fists and said, May I ask what Senior and the Shui family are? The old woman stared at him indifferently. It's fine. I came to the Shui family to invite a master to join the Stellar Pavilion's Appraiser Association. Is there something you can't tell me? Li Qianquan heaved a sigh of relief when he heard the words, It's fine. His expression softened. However, when he heard the latter part of the sentence, he felt as if a mountain had suddenly appeared in his heart, crushing him to the point that he couldn't breathe. Stellar Pavilion? How could they not know about this mysterious force that was famous in the sea of constellations? Moreover, this person had come here specifically to invite a member of the Shui family to join the Stellar Pavilion. Moreover, he was appointed as the most important appraiser. It was rumored that every appraiser was a big shot whose name could shake a region. Their status was so high that it could be compared to the family master of a certain island in the Sword Pavilion. And the Shui family had such a person. Cold sweat trickled down from Li Qianquan's forehead. The old woman frowned slightly. You don't know anything. I will ask someone else. She looked around and fixed her eyes on Hong Lei. Then she said, You tell me. Hong Lei's face darkened slightly. He lowered his head subconsciously, speechless. What about you? The old woman raised her eyebrows and stared at Tian Jinyuan. Tian Jinyuan looked at Hong Lei and sighed. He didn't know what to say. What's wrong with all of you? The old woman was slightly angry. Then, she fixed her eyes on Su Yu, who was standing beside Tianjin Yuan. You tell me. Su Yu looked at her and said, the Shui family has been banished from the Twin Star Island. You're too late. The old woman got his answer and flicked a small bag at Su Yu. There were 10,000 Taichu coins in it. 10,000 Taichu coins at once? Everyone was shocked. Who was this person? Why was he so generous? What's the reason? The old woman frowned deeply. She had delayed her journey for a while. She didn't expect the Shui family to have already left. Su Yu said calmly, they didn't have 100 starlight grass, so they were banished. The old woman was surprised. Starlight grass? As far as I know, there is still a month before the deadline. Why are they banishing them now? After thinking for a while, the old woman sighed. I will ask Jian Ruxiong later. The Sword Pavilion is getting more and more unruly. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Who is Jian Ruxiong? He was the founder of the Sword Pavilion, and also the current master of the Sword Pavilion. The old woman in front of them called Jian Ruxiong by his name. Tianjin Yuan said solemnly, Elder, please pay attention to your words. The name of the Sword Pavilion Master is not to be spoken casually. Chapter 1602. What? Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The master of the Sword Pavilion still had to respectfully address him as Lord. What kind of identity did this person have to be so respected? The old woman cast a grateful look at Su Yu, then sighed and said, this will be troublesome. If we want to find that great master, we will have to spend a great deal of effort to find the Shui family's location. Sighing, she prepared to leave. I don't think that master will agree to join the Starry Tower, Su Yu said calmly. The old woman was surprised, and as she turned around to look at Su Yu, she asked, why do you say that? It's because I don't agree, Su Yu said. The old woman turned around and looked at Su Yu in surprise. She then asked, you are, Su Yu said calmly, I am the master you are looking for, the second young master of the Shui family, Shui Yu. You're the Shui family's second young master? The old woman was surprised. After thinking for a moment, the old woman said, then do you know why I invited you? Su Yu did not say a word, pulling out beauty under the moonlight. Looking at the moonlight sword, the old woman's face lit up with joy. Ha! Not bad, not bad. You are indeed the person I am looking for. She held Su Yu's wrist and said, Master Shui, on behalf of the Star Pavilion, I would like to invite you to join the Star Pavilion and become the Star Pavilion's appraiser. If you agree, follow me back to the Star Pavilion now. Su Yu laughed bitterly. Do you think that I still have a mood to join any faction now? The old woman laughed in surprise and said, it's this old lady who didn't think it through. She turned to look at Hong Lei, then at Li Qianquan, and then at the surroundings. She said, Master Shui, the Twin Star Island is just a small place. You'll only be living here if you stay. When I find a place for the Shui family to stay, I'll invite them to the scattered star island of the Star Pavilion. What do you think? Su Yu was expressionless. The old woman pondered for a moment, then said, Master Shui, you don't need to worry. Since I invited the Shui family to stay on the Disordered Star Island, I will surely make arrangements for them. How about this? I will ask the king of the Disordered Star Island to leave, and from now on, the Disordered Star Island will be managed by the Shui family. What do you think? Chaotic Star Island was the fourth island in the Sword Pavilion Sea because it was filled with extremely prosperous black market transactions. Now, he had actually handed the island to the Shui family to manage. Most importantly, they were supported by the mysterious and terrifying Star Pavilion. Even the people of the Sword Pavilion wouldn't dare to provoke them. Upon hearing this, Tianjin Yuan and Hong Lei's expressions changed. How could Hong Lei allow the Shui clan to stand up for him? He said unhappily, Senior, the forces in this region are managed by our Sword Pavilion. Only our Sword Pavilion can decide who stays and who goes. I hope that Senior won't make us. A cold light suddenly pierced through Hong Lei's soul. It was the old woman's gaze. It was cold, indifferent, and sharp, and it was filled with the ruthlessness and dignity of a superior. Shut your mouth before I give you permission to speak, the old woman said coldly. That expression was the complete opposite of the amiable and cordial expression Su Yu had when he was talking to him. Hong Lei shuddered as fear filled the depths of his heart. He had a feeling that the old man before him would kill him with a single thought, regardless of whether he was the envoy of Jian Xian or not. Everyone kept quiet out of fear. It was only then that the old woman's cold expression disappeared. She looked at Suyu gently and asked, "How is it?" Suyu shook his head and said, "Nothing." The old woman was surprisingly patient, and she said amiably, "Mr. Shui, are you not satisfied with the disordered Star Island? If you're interested in the #1 island of Jian Xian's region, the Central Island, I can ask Jian Ruxiong to consider giving up this island to your Shui clan." Everyone was already numb to this unfathomable old woman of unknown identity. They only had boundless reverence for her. Suyu said, "Senior, our Shui clan has always climbed back up from where we fell. The Double Star Island is the birthplace of our Shui clan, and we cannot lose it." The old woman was startled. She had not expected his request to be so simple. Her heart relaxed, and she chuckled. "Isn't that easy? When I find them, I will invite them back immediately. If anyone dares to make things difficult for them, they will have to ask me first." Li Qianquan's heart sank, and he felt as if the sky was about to collapse. If a force supported by the Starry Pavilion made a comeback, would there still be a place for the Li clan? Unexpectedly, Suyu did not appreciate her kindness. He said, "Find them? Why do you want to find them with you? Whoever chased them away will have to invite them back. Whoever caused the Shui clan to lose their assets, they will pay back tenfold." Without hesitation, the old woman looked at Li Qianquan and Hong Lei with a smile. She said, "Did you hear that? Are you still not going to do it?" Hong Lei cannot accept it. He was the one who had chased the Shui clan away. Now, he cannot lower his head and invite them back. Clenching his teeth, Hong Lei said, "Senior, I am Jian Xian's special envoy. I am afraid I cannot do anything that will damage Jian Xian's reputation without the approval of the higher-ups." The old woman said indifferently, "Then why can you make the decision to change the deadline and expel the Shui clan? I will ask you one last time. Are you going to do it or not?" Hong Lei felt the pressure, but he still stubbornly said, "May I ask who you are? If you're just an appraiser, forgive me for not being able to accept your request." Jian Xian was still the source of Hong Lei's confidence. He did not believe that with Jian Xian's identity, the other party would dare to kill him easily. Even the famous appraisers of the Starry Pavilion had to be wary of Jian Xian's existence. The old woman smiled and said, "I am not an appraiser. I am just an old man from the Starry Pavilion who is about to die of old age." Hong Lei said, "Then you should have a name, right? Maybe I happen to know it?" The old woman held her walking stick and smiled gently. "You may know this old woman's name. This old woman's name is Mu Songhai." Mu Songhai? Hong Lei was stunned. What a familiar name. I seem to have heard it before. While he was still in a daze, Li Qianquan had already lost his voice in shock. "Mu Songhai, Starry Pavilion's pavilion master, Mu Songhai?" Boom! In an instant, it was as if thousands of thunderbolts were bombarding Hong Lei's mind. Mu Songhai. Wasn't the name of the Starry Pavilion's pavilion master Mu Songhai? Could it be that the person who personally ran errands to invite Shuiyu to join the Starry Pavilion was the Starry Pavilion's pavilion master? The old woman, Mu Songhai, nodded slowly. If there is no second Mu Songhai in the Starry Pavilion, then the pavilion master is indeed me. Hiss! Everyone gasped in shock. The Starry Pavilion's pavilion master had personally come to Twin Star Island. In terms of status, even the high and mighty Sword Pavilion's pavilion master was far inferior to the Starry Pavilion's pavilion master. When both parties met, the Sword Pavilion's pavilion master would always greet them, never daring to be negligent. Rumor had it that when Jian Ruxiong established the Sword Pavilion and unified the sea, it was with the support of the Starry Pavilion that the other competing forces were unwilling to give up. When the Sword Pavilion met the Starry Pavilion's pavilion master, they had to greet him. In a sense, the Starry Pavilion was above the Sword Pavilion. Tian Jinyun, who was watching from the side, felt his scalp go numb. A small Twin Star Island had attracted such a powerful figure. But when he thought about it again, he secretly rejoiced in others' misfortune. Didn't you, Hong Lei, act recklessly because you trusted the Sword Pavilion's young master? Now, let's see how you're going to deal with it. He could almost imagine the Sword Pavilion's pavilion master's expression when he learned that his people had acted recklessly and offended an appraiser who needed the Starry Pavilion's pavilion master's personal invitation. He could also imagine Hong Lei's fate when he returned. He was dead meat. Hong Lei's legs trembled, and he fell to the ground like a deflated balloon. His face was as pale as paper, and his whole body was trembling nonstop. Li Yu's eyes were filled with disdain as she muttered, "Strong on the outside, but weak on the inside." Mu Songhai clasped his hands behind his back and said with dissatisfaction, "Why? Do you want me to invite you to look for them?" The same sentence could be said by people of different statuses, and the weight would be vastly different. Hong Lei shuddered, scrambling to his feet. He said in panic, "Elder, please spare me. I will go now. I will invite them back." With a swoosh, Hong Lei ran into the sea, looking for traces of the Shui family. "And you, go look for them together." Mu Songhai glanced at Li Qianquan. That glance almost scared Li Qianquan to death. He hurriedly said, "Yes, yes, yes. I will lead the entire clan to look for them. Li family, follow me out to sea to look for the Shui family." Li Qianquan roared, leading the clan into the vast constellation ocean to look for traces of the Shui family. Li Yu was among them. When she passed by Su Yu, she playfully stuck out her tongue at him. As a member of the Li family, she was very happy to see the Li family suffer. Su Yu smiled. Mu Songhai saw this and said, "Why, do you fancy that girl? Why don't I be the matchmaker and let her marry you?" Su Yu said, "Elder, you misunderstand. We're just friends." This conversation was not hushed up, and many people heard it. Li Yu was expressionless, but many of the clan members took note of it. Returning to the empty Shuem manor, Su Yu did not feel that there was any harm in rejecting Mu Songhai's promise. The more one ate, the more one ate. The random Star Island was good, but there were all sorts of people there. How could the weakened Shui family have the ability to control them? Relying on the Starry Pavilion was a way out, but the problem was that there was no such thing as an impregnable foundation. If the Starry Pavilion turned against them one day, the Shui family would definitely suffer a strong backlash. At that time, it would not be a peaceful situation, but a bloody massacre. As for the Central Island, it was even more unrealistic. Only the Twin Star Island, where the enemy was neither strong nor weak, could stimulate the Shui family to continuously advance without suffering a complete backlash. If they wanted to occupy a larger territory, they would have to wait for many years, when the Shui family's power had increased exponentially. In another part of the Shui family, Mu Songhai stood in front of a dilapidated lotus pond, and a gray shadow appeared beside her. "Cabinet Master, is this person really worth it for you to fall out with Jian Ruxiao?" Mu Songhai said indifferently. "This is Lord Hu's intention. I am just following orders." Her words were cold, and she did not have the love for money she had before. "Then, after this person enters the Starry Pavilion, how will we treat him?" Mu Songhai's old eyes were filled with deep indifference. "It's very simple. Test him first. If he passes, treat him as an appraiser." "What if he does not pass?" the gray shadow asked. Mu Songhai's face was cold. "Then I think he and the Shui family are not far from death." The gray shadow nodded. If he did not pass and could not enter the Starry Pavilion, even if they did not make a move, there would be people who would kill him at all costs. Chapter 1603. The Sea of Constellations was vast and boundless. The Shui family had disappeared overnight. How could it be easy to find them? The Li family had used the power of the entire family to search for the Shui family for 7 days and 7 nights, but to no avail. In desperation, they had spent 30% of the treasury's wealth to mobilize all living creatures on the Double Star Island to search for the Shui family. Finally, they had a clue about the Shui family. Several living creatures had seen the Shui family heading in the direction of the Southeast Sea. The southeast was where the Murong Island was. Li Qianquan had a sudden realization. I should have known that they would seek refuge with the Murong family. Not only were Murong Feng and Shui Yuntian old friends, but they had also recently signed a marriage contract and become allies. The Shui family had nowhere to go, so it was reasonable for them to seek refuge with the Morong family. Leave 10 elders behind to look after the house. The rest of you will follow me to the Morong Island, Li Qianquan said. He looked at Hong Lei, who looked reluctant. The bigger the matter was, the more humiliating he would be. But with the Starry Cabinet's Master Mu, Songhai around, how could he say no? In the Shui family's mansion, Suyu watched them leave and said, Cabinet Master, thank you for upholding justice for the Shui family. If there is anything I can do for you, please let me know. Mu Songhai had lowered her status to come here, waiting for this sentence. She smiled amiably. Master Shui, you are too kind. I only want to invite you to join the Starry Cabinet as an appraiser because of your talent. Suyu was slightly reluctant. He did not want to be distracted by the external path, but he would repay the Starry Cabinet's kindness. Sure, but I hope that after joining the Starry Cabinet, I will have some free time to cultivate, Suyu said. Unexpectedly, Mu Songhai was very accommodating. Master Shui, don't worry. If you have no time to work at the Starry Cabinet, you can take on an empty position. If the Starry Cabinet needs you one day, it won't be too late to ask for your help. Suyu relaxed, a hint of joy appearing on his face. Thank you for your understanding, Cabinet Master. In fact, he was a little confused. It was understandable that the Starry Cabinet cherished talent, but it would be contradictory if they allowed him to take on an empty position so easily. Before the Shui family is found, you should follow me back to the Star Pavilion to handle the procedures. As long as you become an official appraiser of the Star Pavilion, even if it's just a nominal position, you can still enjoy all the benefits of other appraisers. Mu Songhai said. Suyu nodded. I'll listen to your arrangements. 3 months later, in the Morong Island Sea region, the Li family had been rushing all the way, rushing day and night. Finally, they had arrived nearby. Go check out the situation on the island and see if the Shui family is there. There's so many of us. If we recklessly go up there, the Morong family might misunderstand and start fighting, said Li Qianquan. Liu nodded and went to the island alone. Morong Mansion. There was a group of people who were not from the Morong clan living in the remote house. They were old, weak, sick, and disabled, and there were 7,000 to 8,000 of them. Their expressions were weary, as if they had experienced a long journey. There was no light in his eyes, as if he had lost all hope for the future. Sigh, I never thought that our Shui family would have to rely on someone else's charity, an injured elder said bitterly as he leaned against a green rock in the yard. Another elder's eyes dimmed. He forced himself to be alert and said, We are only temporarily sheltering on the Morong Island to replenish our nautical resources. Once we have replenished our supplies, we will leave. We will not take advantage of the Morong clan. In the yard, a middle-aged man sighed in a corner with a complicated expression. His expression was filled with guilt and complexity. Whoosh, a figure descended. It was Elder Qingyi. He came in front of the middle-aged man and passed him a space storage ring. He said, Clan Master, we have only replenished half of our nautical resources. Shui Yuntian received the ring. He was silent for a moment, then said, The people from the Morong clan did not say anything bad to you, right? Elder Qingyi forced a smile, but his smile was insincere. How could they? No matter what, they are a force of the alliance. They did not say anything bad. Indeed, they had not said anything bad, but the entire Morong clan looked at them as if they were looking at a homeless dog. The hurt in their eyes was far deeper than words. Shui Yuntian said, Half it is. It will be enough for us to sail for 3 months and reach Xianming Island at the edge of the wilderness. We will think of a way to replenish our supplies there. Elder Qingyi smiled bitterly. Nautical resources were precious resources for any island. Usually, they were stored as strategic resources and would not be sold easily. Even with their relationship with the Morong clan, they could only obtain 3 months' worth of nautical resources. Would Xianming Island really give them that? At that time, they would have to use forceful methods, and a great battle would be unavoidable. Elder Qingyi hesitated for a long time and said, Clan Master, have you really considered this matter? Shui Yuntian raised his head and looked at pale, solitary cloud. He revealed a helpless expression and laughed at himself. Do we have a choice? Opening up a new territory in the wilderness is incomparably dangerous. It is hard to say whether we will succeed or not. Bringing those old and weak with us will only harm them. It is better to leave them with the Moron clan. If we are unlucky and all die in the wilderness, then there will still be a part of the Shwe clan left in this world. If our foundation is stable, it won't be too late to come back and pick them up. Elder Ching Yi said, "This is indeed the best of both worlds. However, will the Moron clan agree to it?" Shui Yuntian stood up and brushed off the accumulated dust on his shoulders. As long as it can move the Moron clan, they have no reason to refuse. He walked forward slowly, as if he was facing an execution ground, resolute and tragic. He wanted to negotiate with the Moron clan. Elder Ching Yi's old tears rolled down his cheeks. He understood that with this trip, Shui Yuntian's last shred of dignity would be completely trampled on. The luxurious living room was crowded with Moron clan's core clansmen. Only Shui Yuntian sat coldly at the side, enduring the gazes of pity, mockery, sympathy, and disdain as he listened to all sorts of discussions. "Clan Master has arrived." A soft shout came from outside. Murong Feng led the clan's 10 great elders and arrived one after another. Shui Yuntian stood up and took a few steps forward. He bowed and saluted as if he was inferior to the others. Murong Feng had a complicated look in his eyes. Even after so many years of friendship, he never thought that Shui Yuntian would end up in such a place. He felt sorry for him and helped him up. "Brother Shui, please sit." As the host and guests took their seats, Murong Feng said, "Brother Shui invited us to discuss something important. May I know what it is?" Shui Yuntian stood up and cupped his fists. "My Shui clan has been here for 3 days. Sorry to disturb you. I'm here today to ask for your resignation." Hearing this, the elders could still keep their composure. The rest of the clansmen were more or less relieved. That scared me to death. I thought the Shui clan would refuse to leave our Murong clan. Luckily, they have some self-awareness. If they don't leave, our Murong clan will become a joke. That's true. I really don't know what we were thinking in the past. How could we ally with such an unlucky force? Even our Murong clan will be looked down upon. It's good that they're leaving. If they don't leave, I won't be able to take it anymore. I might have to chase them out myself. Hee, you're not the only one who can't take it anymore. A few elders can't take it anymore. They've spread the word that if the clan leader dares to take them in, the elders will join forces and chase them away. The hall was in an uproar. They discussed without any reservations, as if no one from the Shui clan was present. Silence. Murong Feng frowned and shouted. When the hall quietened down, Murong Feng looked at Shui Yuntian apologetically. "I didn't teach them well. Brother Shui, please don't take it to heart. It's fine." Shui Yuntian's expression did not change, but everyone could feel his bitterness. Murong Feng said, "Brother Shui, why are you in such a hurry to leave? Our clans are in an alliance. We'll live or die together. Why don't you stay on Murong Island and develop it together? What do you think?" He could not bear to see his good friend of many years leading his clan to destruction. Was it that easy to develop a territory in the wilderness? If it was that easy, why would so many forces stay in the Sword Pavilion's territory? It was because the wilderness was too dangerous. Even the Sword Pavilion did not dare to explore it. The Shui clan would never return from this trip. Shui Yuntian was grateful. A friend in need is a friend indeed. However, he still chose to refuse. "Thank you for your kindness, Brother Moro. We have no face to disturb you anymore. I appreciate your kindness." As the clan leader, he understood that the clan leader cared about the entire clan, not his personal feelings. The 10 venerable ones' tensed faces relaxed slightly. They thought to themselves that Shui Yuntian was tactful. Murong Feng sighed. "Brother Shui, have you really thought it through? The wilderness is not like the Sword Pavilion's territory. There are countless Star Beast Kings. It's extremely dangerous. That's why I have a presumptuous request." Shui Yuntian said, "I will lead the clan's elites to develop a new territory. The old, weak, sick, and disabled will only be sacrificed in vain. I hope Brother Morong can take them in." The crowd was in an uproar when they heard that. What? Is he crazy? The Morong clan doesn't owe them anything. Why should we take care of the old, weak, sick, and disabled? What a joke. I thought Shui Yuntian knew his place. I didn't expect him to reveal his childish side so soon. I will never agree. Why should we take care of them? If you want to leave, get lost. Silence. Murong Feng shouted softly, suppressing the voices of the crowd. He looked at Shui Yuntian and asked, "Brother Shui, how many people do you want to leave?" If there were not many people, he would stay even if he had to. Shui Yuntian said, "I will only take the strongest 100 people. The remaining 7,000 will leave the Murong clan." Even Murong Feng was put in a difficult position. With the Murong clan's wealth, they could support 7,000 people. However, the clan would never agree to it. Seeing that the crowd was about to explode again, Shui Yuntian said, "I will not ask the Murong clan to take care of them for no reason." As he spoke, he took out 100 mysterious foreign race divine arts and said, "These are 100 translated foreign race divine arts. I believe everyone from the Murong clan knows their value." Chapter 1604. One of the elders grabbed a book from afar and flipped through it on the spot, looking delighted. Giant Scale Race's Fire Cloud Spell. Hiss, within the Giant Scale tribe, this item is definitely not leaked. Hearing this, everyone began to absorb it. As they read through it, all of them revealed expressions of pleasant surprise. Sky Devouring 7 Techniques. Galaxy Seal. Snake Entanglement 9 Steps. The disdainful scene was instantly replaced by surprise. Murong Feng also flipped through a few books, looking shocked. He never knew that the Shui family had hidden so many advanced alien race divine spells. If the Shui family could train all of them, their overall power would increase by leaps and bounds. He said, "Brother Shui, these are..." Shui Yuntian thought of Su Yu and felt a bit guilty. A few months ago, a master descended from the Twin Star Island. He was proficient in all races' languages and translated them on the spot. Murong Feng finally understood. If the Shui family had really trained these divine spells, they would not have fallen to such a state. "Brother Shui, are you really going to give these to the Murong family?" Murong Feng's palm felt heavy. Shui Yuntian nodded. "What do you think? If possible, I will trade these 100 alien race divine spells for you to take care of the old and weak of the Shui family." Receiving such a great benefit, be it the elders or the normal people, they were all so happy that they could not close their mouths and agreed. At this point, the last bit of Shui Yuntian's mental illness was gone. "Thank you for your help." Shui Yuntian bowed, feeling complicated. Murong Feng sighed. "Brother Shui, I will take care of the Shui family for you." "Wait." A clear voice was heard. A beautiful figure rushed in from outside the hall. It was Murong Qingsheng. Murong Feng frowned. "Who allowed you to come?" He had already punished Murong Qingsheng to face the wall and reflect, but she ran out. Murong Qingsheng argued, "Leader, this concerns my lifelong happiness. I cannot come out of seclusion. You can punish me as you wish." She turned around and stared at Shui Yuntian. "Uncle Shui, do you know who I am?" Shui Yuntian glanced at her. Seeing that she was so beautiful, he knew who she was. He smiled warmly. "You must be Miss Qingsheng, right?" Murong Qingsheng responded with a cold face. "As long as you know, your Shui family is about to perish. Shouldn't you break off the engagement?" Shui Yuntian's expression changed slightly, and then he smiled bitterly. Shui family, this broken boat was about to sink. It would be strange if Murong Qingsheng didn't immediately draw a line between them. Shui Yuntian said sincerely, "Miss Qingsheng, the Shui family might be incompetent, but Shui Yu, his future achievements are limitless. As a senior, I sincerely advise Miss Qingsheng to think twice before you act." "Limitless? Ha! The Shui clan is already dead. Can a single Shui Yu overturn the heavens?" Murong Qingsheng sneered. "That little bit of talent of his, without the protection of any power, will only make him die faster. Finally, I will respectfully call you Uncle Shui." If you really have my best interests at heart, then cancel my engagement with Shui Yu in front of everyone. Don't drag me down anymore, Murong Qingsheng said. Towards this, the 10 elders expressed their support with silence. Only Murong Feng yelled coldly, Murong Qingsheng, if you dare to be impudent again, I won't forgive you. Right then, Shui Yuntian waved his hand and stared at Murong Qingsheng. His eyes were filled with pity and sympathy as he said, You and I have made the same mistake, a mistake that I will regret for the rest of my life. Underestimating Shui Yu. Because he had underestimated Su Yu, Shui Yuntian had not used Su Yu to search for the starlight grass. If he had left the mountain earlier, the Shui clan wouldn't have suffered such heavy casualties. The starlight grass would have been gathered a long time ago, and the Shui clan wouldn't have fallen to such a state today. He looked at Murong Qingsheng, and it was as if he was looking at himself from the day before. All right, Uncle promises you that we'll break off the engagement. Shui Yuntian took out the document and tore it in front of everyone, then stared at Murong Qingsheng and said, I hope you won't regret this. Seeing this, a relieved smile appeared on Murong Qingsheng's face. She laughed and said, Regret? No. Only by getting rid of him can I marry the Feather God race's young master, Tuoba Alun. How could I regret it? Sighing deeply, Shui Yuntian walked out of the hall without saying a word. Under everyone's gazes, Shui Yuntian felt as if there was a blade on his back. His last bit of dignity had been trampled on in this hall, leaving not a trace behind. Hee, farewell, Murong family members. With his back facing everyone, Shui Yuntian smiled. This smile might be the farewell for eternity. However, Shui Yuntian suddenly stopped and gazed into the distance with his brows tightly creased. Murong Feng's expression also changed slightly. He suddenly flashed out of the hall and stood at the entrance, looking out shoulder to shoulder with Shui Yuntian. He said with a solemn voice, Enemy attack. Elders, prepare for battle. Ordinary clansmen, hide in the facilities. His majestic voice resounded throughout the entire Murong family. The inside of the mansion immediately became a mess. In the distance, a mass of dark clouds rolled over like a great army pressing down on the border. Within the black clouds, a tyrannical aura spread out. In particular, there were 2 auras comparable to first-layer world venerables, causing Murong Feng's expression to turn grave. As the black clouds closed in, Shui Yuntian and Murong Feng were startled to see the people before them. Twin Star Island, Leaf family? The two said simultaneously. Li Qinquan and an important elder of the Leaf family. There was no reason for Murong Feng to not recognize them. As for Hong Lei, Murong Feng had never seen him before. Shui Yuntian was so angry that he laughed. He never thought that the Leaf family would chase after them from so far away. When had the Shui family ever harmed the Leaf family? Was it worth it for them to kill them all the way to Murong Island? The Murong family's elders slowly recognized the origin of the people and were all shocked. In the Sword Gazebo's territorial waters, it was extremely rare for 2 islands to have an all-out war. The Leaf family's large-scale invasion was truly unexpected. However, they quickly regained their senses and stared at Shui Yuntian. Without a doubt, the Leaf family was here for the Shui family. Shui Yuntian, look at what you've done. Why aren't you bringing your clansmen out of Murong Island? Could it be that you really want to see my Murong clan members fight for your Shui family for no reason? Take your foreign tribe's divine skill and get lost. The Murong family cannot afford to take care of the Shui family. The crowd was indignant. Even Murong Feng was caught in a dilemma. Were they really going to fight the Leaf family for the Shui family? Even if they lost a single member of the Murong family, it would be a loss that could not be recovered. Brother Murong, there's no need to feel troubled. Shui Yuntian smiled. His smile was filled with relief. The Shui family's fate has come to an end. The Shui family has no face to drag the Murong family down. He slowly walked out and took a deep breath. His eyes suddenly became fierce as he shouted, Where are the Shui family members? The Shui family members who witnessed this scene knew that their time of death had come. Instead, they mustered their courage and followed Shui Yuntian out of Murong Island. Murong Feng's face was filled with shame and reluctance. He said to the Murong family members behind him, "Forget it. I'm not going to be the family head anymore. I'll personally send my good friend off." He threw down the patriarch's token and rushed over to stand beside Shui Yuntian. Shui Yuntian was moved. Brother Murong Feng laughed bitterly. "We've been friends for many years. Let me send you off one last time." This was probably the last time they fought side by side. Tears rolled down Shui Yuntian's eyes. He laughed and said, "Ha ha, I can die without regrets." He shouted at the approaching dark clouds, "Li family bastards, if you want the Shui family to die, don't think you'll have it easy too." With a roar, he pretended to pounce. Li Qianquan, who was rushing over, was startled. He quickly said, Brother Shui, please wait. You've misunderstood. I'm here to invite you back." The sky above Murong Island became strange for a short while. The Shui family members who were unafraid of death suddenly froze on the spot. "Invite them back." "Go back where?" Shui Yuntian was also stunned. He was a little dumbfounded, but he quickly understood. He laughed angrily. "Li, are you still trying to play tricks? Die." Li Qianquan did not dare to fight Shui Yuntian head-on when he saw Shui Yuntian's suicidal stance. He said hurriedly, "Brother Shui, I'm really here to invite you back to Twin Star Island. You have to believe me." Hey, Brother Shui, don't hit." Li Qianquan spat out a mouthful of blood from the slap. He did not fight back. Instead, he went behind Hong Lei and said, "Envoy Hong, speak quickly. Now is not the time to pretend to be mute." Hong Lei originally wanted to hide in the crowd. He did not want to come out and make a fool of himself. He did not expect that Li Qianquan would push him out. With a gloomy face, Hong Lei glared at him and walked out reluctantly. When he looked at Shui Yuntian, his insufferably arrogant face actually squeezed out a smile, and he stuttered, "Shui, Patriarch Shui, he's right. You can't trust him, but you should trust Envoy Jianxian, right?" Shui Yuntian was stunned. Shui Yuntian had sensed that something was wrong when Li Qianquan only parried and did not fight back. Then, he saw Hong Lei's deflated expression. He could not help but be surprised. Based on his understanding of Hong Lei, he was an extremely prideful person. He would not lower his status for the sake of a scheme. He stopped his attack and said coldly, "Li, what are you playing at?" Li Qianquan rubbed his aching chest and said with a wry smile, "I mean exactly what I said. We are here to invite you and the Shui family back." Shui Yuntian was confused. What was going on? He looked at Hong Lei again. "Envoy Hong, you forced us to leave Twin Star Island. How do you explain that?" Hong Lei felt uncomfortable under everyone's attention. But when he thought of Mu Songhai's threat, he felt a chill run down his spine. He said, "This envoy, I didn't handle it properly. I realized my mistake. So, I came to invite Patriarch Shui and the other clansmen back." Humph! Shui Yuntian snorted and interrupted him. "If you don't explain clearly, don't think that we will go back. Who knows what you have up your sleeves? Maybe you are ambushing us along the way. Instead of that, we might as well perish together with you now." Both of them looked embarrassed. No one had the face to say anything. In the end, it was Li Qianquan who said shamelessly, "It's your son?" He became the Star Pavilion's appraiser. The Star Pavilion's master came personally. Li Qianquan's face was full of bitterness. He begged, "Brother Shui, I beg you, please go back. The lives of my family depend on Brother Shui." Quack. Chapter 1605. What? The young master of the Shui family had become an appraiser of the Starry Pavilion? All right, it was the mysterious Star Pavilion's master who showed up in person. If not for Special Envoy Hong's solemn expression, they would have suspected that Li Qianquan was joking. Not to mention the strict requirements to become an appraiser of the Starry Pavilion. Just the appearance of the Starry Pavilion master was like a legend. It's true, Hong Lei's expression was sullen, but he forced a smile and cupped his hands at Shui Yuntian. "Shui clan master, please go back for the sake of Jianxian. My life is in your hands." The whole place was deathly silent. It was actually true, not to mention the outsiders who felt like they were dreaming. Even the members of the Shui clan were dumbstruck, and their minds went blank. The fastest to accept reality was Shui Yuntian. He had long known that Su Yu was not an ordinary person. But even so, he was still stunned for a long time. After a long time, the members of the Shui family came back to their senses. Elder Qing Yu was so excited that his whole body was trembling. He ignored Li Qianquan, who had been hostile toward him not long ago, and went forward to grab his hand. You said that the young master has become an appraiser of the Starry Pavilion? Li Qianquan said dejectedly, Yes. Ha 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 ha. Elder Qing Yi laughed wildly, his laughter echoing throughout Murong Island. The rest of the people could not help but howl with excitement. They hugged each other, cried, and laughed together, recounting the ups and downs of their lives in the past 6 months. The heavens have taken pity on us. We can go back now. When we go back, I will definitely turn over a new leaf and cultivate diligently. I will not suffer today's humiliation again. Ha! The heavens have given us a second chance. The Shui family will not repeat the same mistakes. The crowd was excited. Elder Qing Yi was still laughing loudly. Look, how happy is Elder Qing Yi? Wait, why is he twitching all over? He's even spitting. Oh no, Elder Qing, you can't stop laughing. Knock him out quick. Bang! With Elder Qing Yi unconscious, the scene finally quieted down. Tears rolled down Shui Yuntian's cheeks as he bowed in the direction of the Shui family. Ancestors of the Shui family, we're back. Li Qianquan and Hong Lei both heaved a sigh of relief. Finally, it was not too late. After a brief moment of astonishment, Murong Feng was genuinely happy for his old friend. He laughed heartily and said, Congratulations, Brother Shui. It looks like I'll have to send you off on your last journey. I wonder how long you'll have to wait. Shui Yuntian also burst into laughter. Isn't it all because of my son? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The 10 elders of the Murong clan flew over and congratulated. Congratulations, Patriarch Shui. Your son has joined the Starry Pavilion and become an appraiser. From now on, no one in the Sword Pavilion Sea will dare to provoke your clan. Haha, this is truly a cause for celebration. Our Shui and Murong families should interact more in the future. We can't become distant just because of the distance, right? That's right. Our two families have been friends for over 100 years. They laughed and complimented Shui Yuntian as if they were not the ones who had shown their ugly and cold-blooded side. Murong Feng secretly shook his head when he saw this. However, he naturally hoped that the Murong clan could maintain a good relationship with the Shui clan. After some thought, he took out the foreign tribe's divine art and returned it to Shui Yuntian. He said, It seems like the Shui clan doesn't need the Murong clan's protection. The deal is invalid. These divine arts are yours. To be honest, he was a little reluctant to give them away. He could feel the significance of these divine arts. As long as the Murong clan was given enough time to cultivate these divine arts, their overall strength would definitely skyrocket. Now, he could only return them. Unexpectedly, Shui Yuntian waved his hand and returned the divine arts. He said with a calm expression, Brother Murong, please accept them. Take them as a token of appreciation for the care the Murong clan has given us over the past 3 days and for the half of the nautical resources. Murong Feng's expression tensed up when he realized the hidden meaning behind his words. He asked, Brother Shui, we mean? Shui Yuntian expressionlessly looked at the smiling elders and the Murong clan members who were complimenting him. He said, If the Murong clan is in trouble one day, Brother Murong, you can lead your clan to Twin Star Island. For the sake of our friendship, I will take care of them for you. I won't ask for anything from you. As for the alliance between our two clans, I think we should end it here, Shui Yuntian said tiredly. The Murong clan elders and Murong clan members' expressions froze. They were speechless. The strange thing was they could not refute him at all. They could not even find a reason to hate him. This was because they had used their actions to break the alliance between the two clans. They had also taught Shui Yuntian what the Shui clan should do when the Murong clan was in trouble. Murong Feng said anxiously, Brother Shui, please don't lower yourself to their level. Our clans, Shui Yuntian waved his hand and sighed. He patted Murong Feng's shoulder and said, Good brother, if someone tries to harm you, I will fight with you at all costs. But as for the Murong clan, I am sorry. I really can't find a reason to help them. Morong Fong could not refute him. He turned around and glared at them. That's what you do for not helping me. Now, the Shui clan is rich, and you can't even climb up to them. It was not hard to imagine how much benefits the Murong clan could get if they kept the alliance. At least, as long as the Shui clan was around, whoever dared to touch the Murong clan would have to think twice about the Shui clan and the Star Pavilion. But now, they had thrown away this life-saving card. Right now, he wished he could beat all these short-sighted people to death. Shui Yintian held his fists together and said, "Brother Murong, farewell." Murong Fong had mixed feelings as he watched them leave with a bitter smile. Uncle Shui, wait. Murong Qingchang carefully walked out of the crowd. She looked shy, which was the complete opposite of her aggressive attitude from before. Shui Yintian stopped and said, "Miss Qingchang, what's the matter?" Murong Qingchang asked politely, "Uncle Shui, may I ask if the appraiser of the Star Pavilion is the young Master Shui Lei?" She subconsciously thought that Shui Lei was much more talented than Shui Yu. If there was anyone who could be chosen by the Star Pavilion, it would be Shui Lei, right? Shui Yintian did not change his expression as he said lightly, "What are you trying to say?" A trace of shyness flashed across her face as she said, "Uncle Shui, you might not know this, but Shui Lei is also my friend." Shui Yunqian's lips curled up into an almost imperceptible sneer as he said lightly, "Oh, is that so? But Shui Lei has a family. There is no future between you two. That won't happen." Murong Qingqing's face turned even redder as she said shyly, "I am willing to be Shui Lei's concubine." Concubine was the lowest existence in the Sword Pavilion Ocean. It could be said that no normal girl would be willing to be a concubine. The Star Pavilion's appraiser, who was personally invited by the leader of the pavilion, would have a bright future ahead of him. He would probably be much more powerful than any young master. Even if she were to be his concubine, it would still be better than the young master's wife. This was something that Murong Qingchang had thought about very clearly. "Is that so?" Shui Yintian said lightly. "Unfortunately, Shui Lei has already betrayed the Shui family. I can't help you." Murong Qingchang froze. Betrayed? Then who is the young master they were talking about? She pointed at Hong Lei and Li Qianquan. Shui Yintian said, "I only have 2 sons. Which one do you think would have joined the Star Pavilion?" Hearing him, not only Murong Qingchang, even Murong Fong was shocked. "You mean the one who was really invited by the Star Pavilion is Shui Yu?" Shui Yuntian chuckled, his face filled with pride. "Impossible. How could it be him?" Murong Qingchang screamed. Shui Yuntian put away his smile, looked at her, shook his head, and turned to leave. "Uncle Shui, I was confused. Can we re-sign the marriage contract?" Murong Qingchang hurried to stop him. Murong Fong and the other master's eyes brightened as well. If the marriage contract was still there, the relationship between the 2 families would be maintained. Unfortunately, Shui Yintian did not even turn his head. "Miss Qingchang, before you forced my uncle to break the contract, I told you that Shui Yu is different from the rest of the Shui family. He has a bright future ahead of him. If you insist on breaking the contract, you will regret it. Now, it is too late to regret. Miss Qingchang, do you think you can still match up to Shui Yu?" "Ah, you are on your own." Watching the Shui family leave, Murong Qingqing's eyes lost focus as she sat down on the ground. A Star Pavilion's appraiser's fiancé had been rejected by her. Now, she wanted to renew the marriage contract, but she could no longer match up to him. She had always wanted to marry a glorious young genius with a bright future. But in the end, she had missed it and gained nothing. "I don't accept this. I, Murong Qingchang, have the talent and the looks. I don't believe that Shui Yu would reject me." Murong Qingchang stood up and gritted her teeth. "I want to beg Shui Yu face to face." Murong Fong slowly closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were covered with a cold intent. What a disgrace. "Get down on your knees." A beam of sharp killing intent shook Murong Qingchang to the point that her legs went soft and she knelt down on the spot. "If it were not for you acting on your own and rudely breaking the contract, our Murong family would be supported by the Star Pavilion right now. Because of your selfishness, How much of our family's future have been ruined? Murong Feng's hatred was hard to calm down. Speak. Who let you out of your solitary confinement? And who told you to break the contract? Murong Qingcheng, who should have been solitary confinement and had no idea about the outside world, suddenly showed up. There must be someone helping her secretly. Murong Qingcheng knew that she had made a big mistake. Her face was pale, and she did not dare to breathe loudly. Murong Feng was furious. His cold eyes scanned the crowd and locked on a Master Blue Cloud, who had a weird expression on his face, and said coldly, "It was you." Master Blue Cloud had never seen Murong Feng this angry before. He swallowed his saliva and said, I did not expect the Shui family to make a comeback, and I did not expect—" Boom! Murong Feng suddenly attacked, his palm piercing through Master Blue Cloud's chest, almost taking his life. The fierce and ruthless cultivation shocked all the elders present to the point that they kept quiet out of fear. Master Blue Cloud. Murong Feng's eyes revealed a killing intent. When Shuiyu was on the island, I had already warned you not to cause trouble. You turned a deaf ear and caused a huge disaster. The Murong family cannot tolerate you anymore. Take your precious granddaughter and scram immediately. Leader, Master Blue Cloud begged. Chapter 1606. With fear in his eyes, Master Qingyan left the Murong family in regret. Murong Qingcheng was also ashamed as she supported her grandfather and left dejectedly. Grandpa, it's all my fault. I only thought about myself, which caused you to be kicked out of the family. At this point, Murong Qingcheng seemed to have woken up from a dream as she cried. Master Qingyan touched her hair and said, "Silly girl, it's all my fault. I made you miss out on such a great marriage." Murong Qingcheng felt bitter as she looked at the Murong Island that was getting further and further away. Grandpa, where should we go? How about we go to the Feather God clan? Tuobaluan covets my beauty, so he should take us in. Master Qingyun, who had once tried to persuade Murong Qingcheng to marry Tuobaluan, shook his head. Tuobaluan has his eyes on the Murong family behind you, which is why he is willing to marry you. Now that you have been kicked out of the Murong family, Tuobaluan will only treat you as a plaything. Unexpectedly, Murong Qingcheng did not refute. Being in a big family, she understood the word benefit very well. Then who should we rely on? The world is so big, but there is no place for us to go. However, Master Qingyun's eyes shone brightly as he said, "Let's go find Shuiyu." Murong Qingcheng was surprised. Why do we need to find him? Master Qingyun forced a smile. Why do you think the leader left us alive? With the mistakes they had made, they should be punished even more severely. Leader wants us to go beg Shuiyu, so that the Shui family's resentment can be resolved? Murong Qingcheng was not stupid, so she understood immediately. Master Qingyun said, "Whoever started the trouble should untie it. If Shuiyu can forgive us, it is not impossible for the Shui family and the Murong family to reconcile. You should know that Shuiyu has the final say in the Shui family now." Murong Qingcheng's eyes brightened as she clenched her teeth. This happened because of me. I will definitely ask for his forgiveness. Star Pavilion. Suyu followed Mu Songhai back to the random Star Island. Many of the appraisers from the Star Pavilion came to welcome them. "Welcome, Pavilion Leader." Lightly nodding, Mu Songhai did not look away as he led Suyu back to the Star Pavilion. The managers and appraisers of the pavilion were all summoned to attend the meeting. This old one has been gone for several days. Was there an urgent matter? Mu Songhai asked. She looked towards a middle-aged woman who was dressed appropriately in palace attire. Her expression was respectful. Her name was Yin Changhong, and she was the deputy pavilion master promoted by Mu Songhai. Vice Pavilion Master Yin Changhong bowed and said, "Pavilion Master, there is nothing urgent in the pavilion. However, there's a piece of news that I need to inform Pavilion Master." "Speak," Mu Songhai said. Yin Changhong clapped her hands, and a few servants carried in a mangled corpse. "Pavilion Master, in the past few months, news of an unfamiliar creature eating humans has been spreading in the nearby seas." Yin Changhong's expression turned solemn. "It happened near all the major islands, and the victims were all eaten by some kind of evil spirit. This matter has made everyone anxious, and no one dares to casually leave the island. As a result, the number of people coming to Chaotic Star Island has decreased sharply, and business has become much more sluggish. This subordinate personally went to the nearby islands and asked the island master for a victim's corpse. However, after observing it for several days, I still don't know what kind of evil spirit injured it. So, asked Pavilion Master. Mutsanghai frowned slightly. A man-eating evil spirit? She narrowed her old eyes and examined the corpse. At first, her eyes were filled with confusion. Suddenly, she flicked her finger and hit a certain part of the corpse. A pitch-black tooth embedded in the rib shot out and froze the corpse in place. Mutsanghai's pupils constricted. Even with her strength, she couldn't help but look solemn. This is a secret technique that has been lost since the ancient times, the nine-god body. Hearing this, Yin Changhong's eyes were filled with confusion. Nine-god body. Forgive this subordinate for being ignorant and inexperienced, but I have never heard of it. Mutsanghai stared at the pitch-black tooth and said, "It's normal that you don't know. That's something that happened during the era of ancient god Jiulong. It's too long ago. The nine-god body was a powerful and unpredictable creature. It was born with the souls of the nine great ferocious beasts of the ancient times. It could grow stronger by devouring the flesh and blood of other creatures. If ancient god Jiulong hadn't subdued it, I'm afraid it would have grown into the most ferocious creature in the world, on par with Tao Tai." Hearing this, Yin Changhong was shocked. On par with Tao Tai? Wouldn't our random star island be in danger? Mutsanghai shook his head. That's not necessarily the case. Judging from this lost tooth, the body of nine gods should still be in the process of transformation. It can only be regarded as a young body. Its strength should be at the first Heaven Cave World Master. If we can find it, we can kill in advance. However, the nine-god body has long been extinct with the disappearance of the ancient god realm of Jiulong. Why did it suddenly appear in the world? Suddenly, she noticed that Su Yu, who was beside her, had a slight change in his breath. Looking sideways, she saw a trace of surprise on Su Yu's face. Her eyes flashed, and she said, "Master Shui, do you know something?" Su Yu shook his head and said, "I was just surprised by the power of the nine-god body." In fact, he was shocked that the so-called nine-god body came from the god realm of the Nine Dragons Valley. Could it be that other creatures besides him had also escaped from the Tao Tai's cage that day? He couldn't help but recall that he had witnessed some creatures stepping out of the door of the cage with his own eyes. He didn't know if the nine-god body was among them. Moreover, speaking of the nine-god body, so you remembered a person who was born with the nine-spirit body. The nine-god body and the nine-spirit body were only one word apart. Mutsanghai didn't doubt it. He said, "Don't worry, you are in the Star Pavilion. The nine-god body will never dare to violate you." Yin Changhong sized Su Yu up curiously. She had been wondering since the beginning. The Pavilion Master left the Star Pavilion without saying a word. Why did he suddenly return today and bring back an ordinary young man? Pavilion Master, who is this young man? Yin Changhong asked cautiously. The rest of the people had already noticed Su Yu and were asking questions. A smile appeared on Mutsanghai's face. He said, "Haha, I forgot to introduce him to all of you. From today on, this young man is the treasure appraiser of the Star Pavilion, Master Shui." What? Even Deputy Pavilion Master Yin Changhong couldn't help but be surprised. The selection of treasure appraisers in the Star Pavilion was very strict. Only those who had made a name for themselves were qualified. Before joining the Star Pavilion, which of the treasure appraisers present didn't have a specialty that ordinary people didn't have? He was so young. Could he have the specialty of the unrivaled Sword Pavilion? Although everyone was confused, how could they dare to question the Pavilion Master? They all smiled and congratulated him. Yin Changhong smiled sweetly. Haha, that's a cause for celebration. To be honest, I'm tired of looking at the group of old men in the treasure appraisal room. It's a coincidence that a handsome young man has come. Her teasing words made everyone laugh, even though they were all fake smiles to flatter her and Mutsanghai. Mutsanghai chuckled. Changhong, You're responsible for accompanying Master Shui on a tour of the Star Pavilion's treasure appraisal room. Then, you can apply for an appraiser's identity card. She stood up and gave Suyu a kind smile. I still have some matters to attend to. If you have any requests, you can ask Chong Hong directly. Senior, please go ahead, Suyu said. When Mu Songhai walked past Yin Chong Hong, he paused slightly. Yin Chong Hong seemed to have gotten a hint and nodded her snow-white chin. When everyone left, Yin Chong Hong smiled at Suyu. Master Shui, please come with me. The treasure appraisal room of the Star Pavilion was the most important core area. The 3 inner and 3 inner floors were all heavily guarded. There were as many as 9 level 1 Cavern World seniors in the open and in the dark. In addition, the treasure appraisers were all big shots who had been famous for a long time. Their strength was not weak. If anyone broke into this place, it would be no different from courting death. After layers of identity verification, Suyu was finally able to see the true face of the treasure appraisal room. It was a huge cavern world that was artificially created into 13 continents, each of which was guarded by a master-level figure. On the continents, there were countless treasure appraisers' assistants, busily assisting the appraisers to identify the treasures sent in. It was worth mentioning that each industry had its own specialization. Each continent's treasure appraiser was responsible for different projects. For example, some were responsible for the appraisal of divine weapons, some were responsible for the appraisal of divine elixirs, and some were responsible for the appraisal of secret manuals. Master Shui, what are you good at? Yin Chong Hong asked tentatively. Suyu looked behind him as he pondered. His intuition told him that someone was examining everything in front of him through some kind of artifact. In a secret room of the Star Pavilion, Mu Songhai was staring at a simple and unadorned bronze mirror. The person reflected in the mirror was Suyu. A gray figure stood beside her and said, "We'll know whether this brat has true ability or not after a test. If he doesn't have the qualifications to be an appraiser, I'm afraid we can't accept him even if Lord who gives the order." Mu Songhai nodded coldly. He better pray that he has some specialties that the Star Pavilion will value. Otherwise, he and the Shui family will be finished. The higher they were praised, the harder they fell. Li Qingquan, Hong Lei, the Murong family, which one of them was not trampled by the Shui family. Once the Shui family was no good, they would step on them 100 times more until they were crushed. In the cavern world, Suyu pondered for a while and said, "Yes, divine weapons." His answer was not surprising. He had attracted the attention of the Star Pavilion because he had found the beauty under the moonlight among the defective goods. Yin Chong Hong's eyes flashed, and she said, "What a coincidence. There are 3 treasure appraisers responsible for the appraisal of divine weapons." As a major category, there were 3 treasure appraisers responsible for the appraisal of divine weapons. One of them is the craftsman known as the Limitless Craftsman, Dongfang Mo. The other is the #1 collector of divine weapons, Jin Buhuan. The last one is even more peculiar. He was trained as an artifact spirit and knows all the divine weapons in the world, as well as his own body, Yin Chong Hong slowly introduced, constantly observing Suyu's expression. Unfortunately, Suyu's face was calm, and his eyes were unruffled. Yin Chong Hong was disappointed. She could not judge Suyu's mood at the moment, so she tried to say, "Master Shui, the divine weapon appraisers are all famous figures. When you visit them later, there may be some difficulties. Master Shui, you must be mentally prepared." Difficulties? Is it a test? Suyu was well aware of it. He still said calmly, "All right, I also want to meet the treasure appraisers and see what is so special about the Star Pavilion's treasure appraisers." Such a confident expression caused Yin Chong Hong to be slightly startled. Did this kid understand what she was implying? He was going to have an open competition with 3 famous treasure appraisers. How could he be so confident? Chapter 1607. He flew to the continent, accompanied by the 3 appraisers. The 3 of them looked at each other, exchanging glances silently. Suyu had chosen the continent for the divine weapon appraisal because he was an expert in appraising divine weapons. To the 3 appraisers in charge of the divine weapons, Suyu is undoubtedly a new competitor. How could they accept this calmly? After traveling for a while, Jean Buhuan said with a smile. How is it, Master Shui? Are you satisfied with our work? Why don't you give us some pointers? Dongfang Mo and the artifact spirit turned their heads, their eyes filled with contempt and sarcasm. What right did a young man in his 30s have to be on equal footing with them? If it were anyone else, they wouldn't be able to get out of this embarrassing situation. Who had the right to give pointers to the three famous appraisers? Yin Changhong shook her head secretly. The reactions of the three appraisers were more intense than she had expected. It seemed that Su Yu would be in trouble. However, to everyone's surprise, not only was Su Yu not fearful, but he did not even have the slightest bit of modesty. He said, not bad. Not just the three appraisers, but even Yin Changhong was obviously stunned. Dongfang Mo laughed angrily. Then I hope Master Shui can give us some pointers, so that the three of us can learn a thing or two and see what it means to say that there is always someone better out there. Su Yu shrugged his shoulders nonchalantly. Sure. After thinking for a while, Su Yu pointed at the edge of the continent, which was piled up into thousands of mountains of defective divine weapons. He said, those should be the defective divine weapons that the three of you have personally eliminated, right? Jean Buhuan put on a fake smile and said, that's right. Are you planning to find the treasures that the three of us have missed? If you have such a plan, I think you should give up as soon as possible. It won't be so easy to pick up the treasures that we have missed. The artifact spirit was a living creature formed by a mass of light and shadow. He stared at Su Yu and snorted coldly. I know who you are. Aren't you the Shui Yu who found the beauty under the moonlight and the heaven-splitting spear from the defective weapons? I'm sorry to tell you that the reason there were treasures that were missed from the defective weapons was because the three of us happened to be out, and the appraisal work was handed over to our subordinates. If the three of us were here, this would not have happened. Su Yu wasn't surprised at all, and he said, you don't need to explain anything. I'll know once I see it. Ha! It has been a long time since this old man has met someone as unrestrained and unrestrained as Grandmaster Shui. Just as well, allow me to broaden my horizons. The corners of Jean Buhuan's mouth curled as he said. Accompanied by the others, they flew to the edge of the continent, above the mountains of defective goods. Grandmaster Shui, please. We're all waiting for your guidance. Dongfang Mo crossed his arms and said in a strange tone. Su Yu did not say a word, silently inspecting the defective goods below him. There were as many defective goods as there were hairs on an ox, and it would take a long time to look through them all. Half a day had passed, and Su Yu was still observing the area. He had not discovered anything. At this point, the three grandmasters looked at each other and shrugged with a smile. Master Shui, if you really can't find it, then forget it. It's one thing to be confident, but you must also have the strength to match your strength. Jean Buhuan was always smiling. Dongfang Mo chuckled coldly while the artifact spirit said disdainfully, boring, Deputy Pavilion Master. The next time you invite someone over, at least bring someone with some foundation. Yin Changhong was helpless, and her eyes were full of disappointment as she looked at Su Yu. According to the Pavilion Master's secret instructions just now, if Su Yu did not have the real ability, then she would just give him a random excuse and ask him to leave the Starry Pavilion, never to be hired again. She sighed silently and said in a regretful tone, Mr. Shui, how about we come again next time? Unknowingly, she had changed the way she addressed him, Mr. instead of Grandmaster. Inside the secret chamber, on the other side of the mirror, Mu Songhai's eyes turned cold and indifferent. He said, what a waste of the pavilion's time. Lord whose judgment may not always be correct. However, at this moment, Su Yu did not bat an eyelid. He continuously shot out a streak of mortal fairy's strength into the mountains of defective goods below him. With a shake, a defective item was hooked out and fell into Su Yu's palm. It was a golden whip broken into 3 pieces, which had lost its spirituality. The golden whip was originally a fairy-level treasure, but its grade had fallen to even a spirit-level lower grade. If it was thrown on the ground, it would probably be picked up by someone to recycle its materials. There were many marks on the surface of the golden whip. There were traces of ice, flames, hammering, and so on. These were all marks left behind by the appraisers. This item could be said to have been completely appraised by them and was worthless. Golden snake bone whip? The artifact spirit stopped in his tracks and sized it up. He said confidently, "Based on my senses as an artifact spirit, this item has been destroyed from the inside out. Not only has it lost its spirituality, but even the internal material structure has been destroyed into a mess. Not to mention the possibility that there might be something hidden inside." There was a hint of a sneer in his words. "I'm looking forward to seeing if Master Shui can find any more treasures inside." Jin Buhuan and Dongfeng Mo were also full of confidence. Suyu clenched his 5 fingers and held the golden snakebone whip in his hand. He crushed it inch by inch, turning it into powder. Indeed, as the artifact spirit said, the internal material structure had been destroyed and could be crushed easily. The artifact spirit had a look of disdain on his face, as if to say, "I knew it, didn't I? Master Shui, it seems like you didn't find any treasures inside," the artifact spirit said with a smile. "What a pity. I wanted to receive personal guidance from Master Shui." Jin Buhuan shook his head and said sincerely, "Young people are good at everything, but they're still young and impetuous. Don't be so arrogant next time. Otherwise, you'll be the one losing your dignity." Dongfeng Mo scolded coldly, "Ignorant. What a waste of my time." The 3 appraisers turned around, leaving Su Yu with an unforgettable experience. Yin Changhong sighed silently and thought to herself, "To think that I thought for a moment that he would find some treasures inside the golden snake bone whip. It seems like I was overthinking it." She was about to speak when she saw that Su Yu's expression was calm. He was still crushing the remaining golden snake bone whip into dust. She noticed that Su Yu did not throw the dust away. Instead, he gathered it together. Then, Su Yu opened his mouth and blew out a gust of air, dispersing the impurities in the dust and leaving behind a golden powder. With a wave of his big sleeves, the golden powder danced in the air and stuck together. At first, Yin Changhong was surprised. She could only see the golden powder stuck together in a messy manner. She could not see anything strange about it. But then, Yin Changhong's eyes gradually narrowed, and she was shocked. This is the golden snake whip technique that the Golden Snake clan has never taught to outsiders. The golden powder stuck together to form a picture. On the picture, the golden powder was arranged in rows of clear incantations. The first incantation was the words Golden Snake Whip Technique. Unfortunately, many of the incantations were incomplete. Hearing that, the 3 appraisers who had already turned around and stared at the scene before them in disbelief. The artifact spirit was shocked. Divine Weapon Book Collection? It was not the first time they had come across such a method of hiding treasures. However, it was the first time they had seen the incantation being crushed into materials and mixed into a divine weapon. What really shocked them was that the 3 of them had examined it countless times, but none of them had noticed anything amiss. Yet, Su Yu had managed to identify the incantation from among the thousands of defective items. This reflected Su Yu's divine weapon appraisal skills, which were far superior to the best. He was definitely not as ignorant as they had imagined. As they stared at the incomplete golden snake whip technique, the 3 of them were shocked. The reason why it was incomplete was because their inspection methods were too rough, which destroyed the golden snake whip technique. Secondly, it had been stored for too long, which caused the golden powder in the golden snake whip technique to be missing. If this item had fallen into Su Yu's hands earlier, he would have obtained an extremely valuable complete incantation. Inside the secret chamber, the Starry Cabinet Master's indifferent face flashed with surprise. He really has some skill. I just don't know if it's due to luck or ability." The 3 appraisers stared at Su Yu, especially the artifact spirit, whose eyes were filled with dissatisfaction. He said, "We deal with numerous affairs every day, appraising hundreds of millions of treasures. There are bound to be times when we make a mistake. It's not a big deal to only find one item." Su Yu nodded. "Yes, I have the same thoughts as well. No matter how brilliant a master is, if he deals with too many goods, there will be times when he makes a mistake. So, I think that our pointless sparring should end here, right? He had no intention of starting a dispute, nor did he intend to hurt their pride. However, Su Yu's appearance had already caused them to lose face, and they were unable to extricate themselves from the situation. Shui, stop pretending to be a good person in front of us. If you want to give us pointers, we'll have to see if you're really capable. The artifact spirit shouted, pointing at the center of the continent, where there was an enormous mountain range. All of the treasures that had just arrived were waiting for the three appraisers to appraise them one by one. Let's compete again. Let's see who can choose the most valuable treasure among them. How about that? The artifact spirit was aggressive. Jin Buhuan put on a fake smile and said, Master Shui, I'm afraid it's not enough to convince us with just the golden snake whip technique. Who knows if you're just lucky? Dongfang Mo sneered as well. Exactly. If you really have the ability, why don't we compete again? So he was silent for a moment. He looked at the three of them and said, I think we can end it here. I have no intention of convincing the three of you, nor do I have any intention of competing with the three of you. There's no need to be so hostile. Humph. Who do you think you are? Why do you have to compete with us? I'm just doing you a favor and giving you a fair chance to compete. The artifact spirit said domineeringly. Jin Buhuan and Dongfang Mo also had arrogant looks on their faces. If you don't dare to compete, then get lost. Our divine armament appraisal continent does not welcome incompetent people. An ear-piercing sound entered his ears. Even a clay figurine would have flames, let alone Su Yu. He had given in time and time again, but the other party had no sense of propriety and was taking advantage of him. Su Yu's eyes turned cold as he said indifferently, There's no need to compete with spiritual abilities. Since the three of you feel so good about yourselves, why don't you take a look at these items? Swoosh! He turned around and looked at the mountain of defective items below him. More than 100 defective items flew out. Su Yu pointed at the 7 or 8 items in front of him and said, This is the war rod carved with the 9 techniques of the heavenly star race. As long as you compare it to the starlight, you can see the 9 techniques in the projection, but you've treated it like trash. This is the 10,000 worm egg of the savage 9-headed worm. It contains 10,000 sleeping worm eggs, but you've treated it like an ordinary fossil. This is the lid of Mei Ba's coffin, but it's actually a key that can lead to Mei Ba's grave. It's a pity that you've abandoned it here. This is... Su Yu listed the 9 defective items that were covered in dust in one breath. Chapter 1608. Don't the three of you want to compete? There's still more than 100 treasures that you missed. Why don't we compete? Su Yu said indifferently. At the side, Yin Changhong was already extremely shocked. In half a day's time, Shui Yu had found more than just the golden snake whip, but more than 100 treasures. He only took out the golden snake bone whip and did not take out all the treasures he found. He was actually thinking about the reputation of the 3 appraisers and did not want to embarrass them too much. After that, Shui Yu was even more modest and cautious, taking the initiative to compromise. The result? The 3 of them did not appreciate it, but were overbearing instead. Now, more than 100 treasures that they missed were like 100 slaps to the face, making them feel ashamed. It was normal for 1 or 2 items to be wrong, but more than 100 items were enough to show that their appraising skills were limited. Looking at the 3 of them in disappointment, Su Yu took to the air and said indifferently, If you can't think of anything, come and ask me. Seeing that we are all members of the Stellar Tower, I will give you free pointers. His words came true. Su Yu really had the ability to give them pointers. After Yin Changhong was surprised, she was ecstatic. Her intuition told her that the Stellar Tower had indeed found a genius. In the secret room, Mu Canghai's indifferent face had long been replaced by surprise. After a long time, she concealed her surprise and said in admiration, Master whose eyes are as shrewd as always. You can see that this child is extraordinary at a glance. At this point, she no longer had any doubts about Su Yu's ability, and she smiled happily. Fortunately, I listened to Master Hu and went to invite him personally. Otherwise, I would have missed a genius appraiser. But he is so young. Where did he get such great experience? Flying to the sky of the cavern world, Yin Changhong's expression was much more respectful, and she addressed him as Master again. Master Shui, please follow me to apply for your identity jade token. Suyu asked in return, Oh, don't I need to visit the rest of the continents? Yin Changhong was stunned and said, The appraisal of the rest of the continents is not closely related to divine weapons. Master Shui's ability may not be of much use. Ability? Suyu looked at her. Oh, I forgot to say, appraising divine weapons is not my area of expertise. What? Such a superior appraisal level was not his area of expertise? Even Mu Songhai, who was peeping at this place, cried out in shock. Yin Changhong realized that she had lost her composure. She quickly hid her surprise and said, Master Shui, what did you just say? Suyu smiled with his hands clasped behind his back. He had the aura of an emperor who was guiding the world. What I mean is that I have a certain level of appraisal skills for elixirs, secret manuals, materials, and so on. Appraising divine weapons is the most mediocre of all. What I'm best at is the foreign language. Hearing that Suyu was proficient in all kinds of appraisal, Yin Changhong felt as if the world had been turned upside down. It was not that there were no all-rounders like Suyu. There were a few in the headquarters of the Star Pavilion, but none of them were so young. After learning that Suyu was proficient in the alien language, Yin Changhong was shocked. Master Shui, if I did not hear wrongly, are you saying that you are proficient in the alien language? Yes. Suyu replied affirmatively. Yin Changhong was excited. There were countless living beings in the great beginning realm, and there were tens of thousands of races. Each race had a language that had been passed down since the creation of the world, and it belonged only to their race. Due to the secrecy of certain inheritances, more than half of the races had never passed down their race's language to outsiders. Even if the divine techniques of their races were passed down, it would be useless to outsiders who did not understand their language. Hence, the great beginning realm had given birth to some strong martial artists who made a living from this. They were obsessed with secretly learning the languages of various races, and then translated their inheritances to obtain shocking benefits. However, secretly learning a race's language required risking one's life. A strong martial artist who could secretly learn 10 languages was definitely an outstanding talent in his field. Such people were rare. Hence, when Yin Changhong learned that Suyu was proficient in the alien language, her excitement was imaginable. At least, there was no such talent in the Star Pavilion branch. Master Shui, may I ask how many alien languages you are proficient in? Yin Changhong asked. Suyu thought for a moment. All these years, he was proficient in all the languages that Yun Yazi had taught him. He was proficient in all the languages of the races, regardless of whether they were passed down to outsiders or not. There should be more than 10,000 languages. 100, Suyu said. 100. Yin Changhong gasped and took out a book in surprise. The names of 10,000 races were recorded on it, and she said, Which languages of the races are you proficient in? Suyu flipped through a few pages and casually ticked off 100 names. After reading, Yin Changhong was pleasantly surprised. Oh my God, there are actually 3 races that do not impart languages to outsiders. How did you do it? I learned it secretly, Suyu said ambiguously. Whoosh, a strong aura penetrated the cavern world and descended. Master Shui, are you really proficient in these alien languages? Mu Songhai stopped prying and appeared personally, his face full of joy. Suyu nodded. If you have these alien languages, I can translate them for you. Someone bring the alien languages collected in the pavilion and let Master Shui have a look. Mu Songhai was too excited and was eager to verify. The verification result was without suspense. Mu Songhai held a book that had accurately translated the alien languages and was overjoyed. Haha, Lord who has really pointed out a great talent for me. Lord who? Who? Suyu was deep in thought. Master Shui, from now on, you are the special grade appraiser of the Star Tower branch in the Jinshin Ocean area, and also the second deputy cabinet master. Your position is above all the other appraisers, and in the whole branch, only I can order you around. In order to keep Suyu, Mu Songhai rewarded him generously. In the blink of an eye, Suyu had jumped from an outsider to a deputy cabinet master and even had the title of a special grade appraiser. Did he only listen to the cabinet master? That was exactly what Suyu wanted, as it would save him a lot of trouble. Congratulations, Deputy Cabinet Master Shui, Yin Changhong said sourly. She had made countless contributions to obtain her current position. In the end, Suyu had leaped to her position because of his talent. How could she feel balanced? Suyu muttered to himself for a moment and said, Cabinet Master, Deputy Cabinet Master Yin, regarding my identity as a Deputy Cabinet Master and a special grade appraiser, I hope that both of you will keep it a secret for the time being. A tall tree attracts the wind, and I am lacking in abilities. It is not good for me to attract too much attention. Mu Songhai found Suyu pleasing no matter how he looked at him, and agreed immediately. You are thoughtful, but I am confused. All right, announce to the public that you are only the new appraiser of the Star Tower, and keep your identity as a Deputy Cabinet Master and a special grade appraiser a secret for the time being. Yin Changhong also said, Don't worry, Deputy Cabinet Master Shui. I will keep it a secret too. She found that Suyu was humble and low-key, and he knew when to advance and when to retreat. Especially when the artifact spirit and the others provoked him just now. Suyu had endured it first, and it seemed that he was not a person who liked to fight for fame and fortune. Thinking of that, her heart relaxed a lot, and her gaze towards Suyu became gentler. Thank you very much, Suyu said. Mu Songhai said, Master Shui, you are now the Deputy Cabinet Master of the Star Tower, and you can use the resources of the Star Tower. Suyu's eyes brightened, and he said, I do have something to investigate. Oh, why don't you tell me about it? Mu Songhai said, I know a lot about the Jinshin Sea area, and maybe I can help Master Shui. Suyu said, in the ancestral worship ceremony of the Twin Stars Island, there's a kind of spiritual liquid that is watered with the divine path. It is the spinal fluid of some kind of giant beast. I'm about to break through, and I need this spinal fluid. I wonder what kind of giant beast this spinal fluid is from. Hearing that, Yin Changhong covered her mouth and laughed. Deputy Cabinet Master Shui, you have asked the right person. Coincidentally, half a year ago, Shuelei of the Shui family exchanged a bag of this spinal fluid for 10 starlight grass. The Cabinet Master has studied it personally and has found the source of the spinal fluid. Suyu was delighted and asked, Cabinet Master, what kind of giant beast does the spinal fluid come from? Mu Songhai was very willing to answer, and said, it should be the long-extinct Dragon Clan. Dragon Clan? Suyu was surprised. Not long ago, he had been in contact with the World Annihilation Dragon and the World Creator Dragon. Divine dragons are born to control the Great Path, and their spinal fluid has the effect of solidifying the divine path. So it is not surprising, Mu Songhai said. Suyu understood. Indeed, the possibility of it being from the Dragon Clan was very high. Cabinet Master, has the Star Tower ever collected the Dragon Marrow? Thinking of the benefits of the Dragon Marrow to the divine path, Suyu was overjoyed. If he could fully comprehend the last 999 divine paths, he would completely step into the divine path. However, the Star Tower Master shook his head. Unfortunately, the Dragon Clan has been extinct for too long. Our branch doesn't have it. Even the headquarters rarely receives the Dragon Marrow. Even if there is, it will be bought immediately. Suyu couldn't help but feel disappointed. However, if you want to find a Dragon Marrow, there is still a chance. Mu Songhai's tone changed. Suyu's spirit was slightly lifted. Oh, where is it? The 10,000 Dragons Cave. Mu Songhai's eyes flashed. The Dragon Marrow that has appeared in the Jinshin Ocean in recent years is most likely from the 10,000 Dragons Cave. Here again, Suyu remembered that the Morong family and the Shui family joined forces for the 10,000 Dragons Cave. The 10,000 Dragon Cave is rumored to be a ruin left behind by an incomparably powerful dragon in the past, when he was besieged by many divine dragons and fought with them. There are many remains of the dragon race inside, and the Dragon Marrow came from these remains. The extremely powerful Dragon Clan was besieged by many divine dragons? Suyu was surprised. Why did this story sound so familiar? Back then, The epic-making dragon stole the Dragon Abyss treasure scroll and was hunted down by many divine dragons of the dragon world. Could that legend be about the epic-making dragon being hunted down? A strange look appeared in Su Yu's eyes. Master Shui, I remember that the Shui family also has a quota to enter the 10,000 Dragons Cave. You can try this trip. And Master Shui, Mu Songhai noticed Su Yu's strange look. Su Yu hurriedly said seriously, I was just surprised by the ancient legend. After a short pause, Su Yu said, Can I ask the Tower Master for a leave of absence for a while? I would like to enter the 10,000 Dragons Cave to take a look. Mu Songhai laughed. Of course. I will also arrange for 2 strong men to follow you from now on and protect your safety. Su Yu secretly frowned. In name, they were bodyguards. In reality, they were worried that Su Yu would not keep his promise and return to the Star Tower. At that moment, a gray figure appeared beside Mu Songhai like a ghost and whispered to him. Mu Songhai was surprised and looked at Su Yu strangely. Su Yu said, Tower Master, what's the matter? Mu Songhai laughed playfully. Haha, it's your fiancée. She came all the way here to see you. Fiancée? Murong Qingqing's figure appeared in Su Yu's mind, and he could not help but frown. This practical woman who wanted to climb the social ladder? Master Shui, it's better to meet her. It seems that the 2 of you are not in a good situation, Mu Songhai said. Su Yu sighed. After all, there was a marriage agreement in name. He cupped his fists and said, I'll take my leave first. Watching Su Yu leave, Mu Songhai withdrew his smile and said to the gray figure solemnly, The 10,000 Dragons Cave is full of dangers. Coupled with the participation of various island forces, the danger level has increased. Arrange for a few people to infiltrate and protect Shui Yu secretly. If anything happens to him, you can bring your head to me